Before we start, may I please remind everyone to change your names into the required format. That is your LGU name underscore your full name. If you have technical or you're experiencing technical difficulties while renaming, kindly inform one of the members of our technical team and we will be happy to assist you. A pleasant morning, everyone. We're so glad you're here. This is Krista Kailat Yongko from the Capacity Development Division, and I will be your facilitator for this entire virtual learning session. We're really happy and thankful that you took the time off your busy schedules just to join us during this week-long training activity. Before we formally start, may I ask our Zoom participants to please give us a quick thumbs up just to be certain that you can hear us crystal clear. Okay, thank you very much. To start, let us begin with an opening prayer. Let us put ourselves in the holy presence of God. Dear Almighty and ever loving God, we glorify and thank Thee, your name. You have showered us with so much blessings, and your presence continuously reminds us of your faithfulness and guidance. We may ask you to shower our speakers today of your greatest inspiration so that they may share the most of their knowledge, heart, and soul to their respective topics. May we also absorb the invaluable knowledge experiences and put it into practice so that we may learn them today. We pray that you may bless all the committees in charge, that they may be able to fulfill their task responsibly, that the objectives they may have set may all be achieved. Your infinite blessing would mean the success of this training. May we be a living witness of your genuine love through the enactment of the knowledge acquired through this activity. We ask this in the name of the Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Okay, once again, this is your facilitator, Krista Kalatyonko, and welcome to the second day of the online training for the Municipal Local Government Units on Government Procurement Reform Act, or the Republic Act number 9184 and its 2016 revised implementing rules and regulations, brought to you by none other than the Government Procurement Policy Board Technical Support Office. Before we dive into the actual lecture proper, allow me to announce the early bird awardees for today. Congratulations to our early bird winners from Reggie Arinay, Mr. Samson Villarosa, then within the course of our program. Also, for today's session, don't forget to register your attendance through the Google Form link to be provided by our event secretariat through the Zoom chat box. I cannot stress this enough. Please double check your entries, as the completion of these requirements shall be crucial for your event certificates. So just a quick recap of yesterday's learning activity. We had a very productive session on Government Procurement 101, including what are the principles on public procurement, key concepts, as well as the different procurement organizations and the legal indemnification package for the back. We also had an in-depth discussion on the efficient procurement measures, simplified posting and electronic submission of procurement reports, updates, and innovations. This was led, of course, by resource speaker Ms. Ludivina Potot. At this point, we will be having another successful and insightful, productive learning session. This time, our topic will be on procurement planning and budget linkage, including early procurement activities. Alam kong excited na po tayong lahat to listen and engage with our speaker. But before that, here just as some of the few terms that we will be encountering during the lecture. This is the correct answer. So ano po kaya ang ibig sabihin ng planning at ano ang connection nito sa ating lecture for today? So for our second term, kindly flash please. Ano po kaya ang ibig sabihin nitong picture na to? May calculator, tapos may nagko-compute. Sabi po nung iba, budgeting. Tama po ba kaya ang sagot nila? Budgeting daw po. Medyo malapit na po sa katotohanan, mga moms and sirs. Malapit na po, Sir Julius. Sabi po nila, listing. Sige po, to our technical team, pa-flash na po yung ating sagot. Ang tamang sagot po is costing. So ano naman po kaya ang ibig sabihin yan? Malalaman po natin mamaya. And I think we're all ready to go straight ahead with the meat of this virtual event, and that is our lecture proper. We would like to assure all of you that we have invited the best of our GPPB recognized trainers, especially lined up for all of us. So with that, it is with joy to introduce with you this session's resource speaker. Director Imelda Sila Seras is presently assigned as the head of the Department of Budget and Management Regional Office in Eastern Visayas, her beloved region. She is a career executive service officer 3, a certified public accountant by profession, and a public financial management practitioner. She has an extensive background as a speaker advocating on public financial management, both for national government agencies and for local government units. Her expertise includes fiscal administration in government, specifically on budgeting and procurement processes. She is also a part-time professor on accounting and auditing subjects at the then Divine Word University in Tacloban City. As an accredited Government Procurement Policy Board trainer, Director Laceras has been conducting procurement training since 2005. She is one of the most requested resource speakers due to her vast experience in government. Director Laceres is also a certified plant Lola. She believes that growing and taking care of her plants can ease her anxiety during the pandemic. It helps her relieve stress and makes her happy. It is her morning routine to drink a cup of coffee while in her garden full of flowers, indoor and outdoor plants. Joining us today, the Regional Director of the Department of Budget and Management, Regional Office 8, and a GPPB recognized trainer. Please welcome in Director Imelda C. Laceras.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Kyla, for the kind introduction. From Tacloban City, Leyte, maupay nga aga aton nga tanan. The topic that is assigned to me for today is your second day of your 1 week training, and this is indeed on procurement planning. So let me proceed outright by sharing my material, presenting the prescribed module for our lecture today. So I understand yesterday was a discussion on Procurement 101, which is also one of the basic discussion points that everybody has to understand, appreciate, and implement and observe. Not only understand mindfully, but also from the heart. In other words, we have to put to heart all the requirements, administrative side, in all government agencies for us to carry out the entire procurement process. For today, the second day of your 1 week training is still basically more on the preparation side. In other words, still more on the administrative requirements. What we have to prepare for us to be able to successfully conduct procurement activities that will be of that would really be very important for all agencies down there, out there, our local government units, to carry out their mandated service delivery function. So for my topic outline, I said still more of an administrative preparation, because without conducting a thorough procurement planning, we would be possibly encountering some difficulties, some delays in the entire procurement process. And so we are glad that the modules now being prepared by GPPB Technical Support Office are already inclusive of all these discussions, particularly focusing on procurement planning and its link to the budget process. So that's why in our topic outline, we are not just going to discuss the basic definition, the question and answer portion that we have to go through when we do procurement planning. The more important discussion here is how we link procurement planning activities with the budget process. Because again, in some of our government agencies, we may be already doing procurement planning, but perhaps the missing link could be it is not done at the right time. In other words, we might be doing correctly procurement planning or need to strengthen in this area. What is more important, as I've said, is we are doing it at the right time. So we have to devote a little longer time here as we discuss part 3 of our topic outline, as well as some tips on how agencies shall be able to conduct more or less a thorough procurement planning by conducting a market research or market study. And what do we do? What information do we gather from this activity as basis for us to proceed with the procurement planning, budgetary reforms also being led by the DBM. And I am referring to the conduct of the early procurement activity short of award. Some of our LGUs are not possibly aware that they can also adopt this. So that's why we are including this in this discussion. Okay, so to start, of course, the objective for this module is for our participants, all of you out there, about 60 as of now, maybe more to catch up, apply and incorporate the fundamentals of procurement planning. So in other words, it's not just about listening, about understanding, but what is more important is applying the same, applying the learnings that you will get for today, and consider that as part of your yearly activity in the LGU as you do your planning process. And of course, understand the basic principles of market research or market study to make it a more simpler, understandable term. Identify relevant procurement projects with proper budget allocation within the given timeline. So as we all know, in government, we are not we don't have a limitless resources. In other words, never had there been a time that our LGUs had enough resources. So it's always a challenge how to balance, how to come up with a balanced budget at the LGU level. When you say balanced budget, with your identified source of fund on top of your regular share from the internal revenue allotment, which will now become your national tax allocation share starting 2022, you are also faced with identifying additional funds from your regular local generated revenue sources, so that your estimated as well na level of expenditures will be equal with that estimated sources of revenue, to ensure that we are doing procurement planning way ahead, so that we can properly contextualize within these limitations. And also, we are not just limited with the level or magnitude of our resources, but we are also faced with certain prescribed timelines. So in other words, as I've said, we should be doing procurement planning within the prescribed budget or planning calendar. So with these objectives of our whole morning discussion, I hope that at the end of my lecture, you're all able to reach this objective that we set for now. So to start with, what comes to mind if you hear the word procurement planning? What comes to mind? Maybe we have to first identify or understand what do we mean by the word procurement. In most cases, we hear word procurement, we hear the word planning, and we put meaning to it separately. Diba? At times when we hear the word procurement, I don't mind kasi trabaho yan ng back. And when we hear the word planning, bahala na yan si planning officer. Sa LGU, these are the provincial, city, municipal, local planning officer. It seems that we fail to understand or put together when we say put together, we perhaps don't really give emphasis on the need for us to understand the bigger meaning of what we mean by procurement planning, because in here you will get to understand that this is not just the responsibility of the BAC, not just the responsibility of the planning officer, but apparently this involves several key players. And so before we identify who are these involved or key players, let's first contextualize what do we mean by procurement in the entire discussion on procurement planning. Or because we have a budget allotted for a project, that's why we will procure. Is that the reason why there is procurement in government? Because we have a budget, or because there are needs that have to be responded. Okay, so apparently the budget that you have there at the LGU is not really the main reason. It's not the reason why LGUs go into procurement undertaking, but rather your budget is one of your resource requirement for you to undertake a successful procurement undertaking, correct? So it's just one of your input, your budget that is allotted for a certain project or a certain goods or services. So what is therefore the reason why there is procurement? Again, it's because we have to provide and respond for these needs. And how do government provide for that needs identified by the agency? There is a process that is prescribed by law and the rules, and that process will involve certain key players, key actors, and what they will be doing is they will be selecting from among suppliers whether what is that need, whether the need is a goods or a service or a project or a consulting service. Okay, so therefore when we hear the word procurement, we immediately uh, uh, imagine that it's not a click, as in a click of a finger, that procurement will happen unless there are extreme urgency or there is imminent danger to life and property, that agencies will be allowed to immediately do the procurement even without anymore going through the selection process as prescribed. Okay? So in other words, that process of selecting from among suppliers requires the identification of what will fit best the need of the particular agency. So in fact, this is the more challenging part of that selection process. What would be the basis of the BAC? Because this is now the responsibility of the Bids and Awards Committee to do the selection process for the entire agency. So identifying what are the factors, what are the criteria in that selection will also be discussed in this module. Okay? And in that process, we are always reminded with the value for money concept. As the BAC conducts the selection process, they have to observe what we mean by value for money concept, the operational efficiency as our objective of public expenditure. So why pay for more if our LGU can pay for the most reasonable cost? Okay, so when we say most reasonable cost, who is the bidder that is awarded the contract by the government? And in that case, we can say that we were able to select and observe the value for money concept in our selection process. As discussed yesterday in your Procurement 101, I'm sure that was highlighted. One of the key reform area in RA 9184. That's why the title of the law is Government Procurement Reform Act. One area that was reformed from the old procurement law is the process of selection. Because before, what usually was the choice of the BAC in recommending award was only the lowest financial bid, regardless of the quality aspect of the item that was offered. Okay. However, in the long term, it was not found out to be beneficial to the government. And so when the law was reformed, it was now introduced that, yes, we will still look for the lowest financial proposal or bid. However, we will also review or assess the responsiveness of the bidder. And so under RA 9184, who gets the contract from government? Who gets the contract from government? Only the lowest calculated and responsive bidder. So in other words, that is what we mean by the value for money concept. Lowest na, quality is still observed, meaning responsive to the tech specs that the agency has set. Okay? So with that in mind, definition of procurement, let us now go through who are the key players that will be involved in the entire process, starting from procurement planning up to the selection process, up to the implementation process of what we planned in the first place. So again, maybe you have or you are already familiar because since yesterday, this was also part of the discussion. So what is important right now is we identify of these key players who are really involved mainly or directly in the first two quadrants. In this procurement paradigm that you will see, this involves the entire procurement process done by a government agency in responding to the identified needs. So in other words, imagine even in a small local government unit, these are the small processes done for the agency to carry out its procurement process. And as you will see, there is an arrow that cuts across all the four quadrants, starting from the first quadrant, which is the identification of the need. So the key players identified here are the end user units. Okay? The end user units that are tasked to do the identification of what are these needs. And as basis in filling up the prescribed PPMP form as an output document in the first quadrant. Okay, so PPMP is the resulting document here, and it goes to the second quadrant for assessment. In other words, the submitted PPMP by the various departments, offices in the LGU is not deemed approved, is not deemed automatically approved. Rather, it will go through the process of assessment, review, also to be done by another set of key players. And these are the key strategic actions that will be done as they assess and review the PPMP. Take note here that the consolidation of what we plan as in the at the level of the end user units will now be consolidated in the second quadrant to come up with our indicative annual procurement plan. Okay, now who are the key players here? As I've said, the budget officer will come in, the BACSEC, the BAC, as well as the head of the procuring entity. So we will take a look at that again later on another slide. What is important is that before the BAC do the actual selection here, the third quadrant, because this is now the main work responsibility of the BAC to really be to function as the procurement arm of the local government unit. So take note that the actual procurement is in the third quadrant. And before that happens, we have to do the first two quadrants. And these are what we refer to as key important processes to be done during procurement planning. Okay? So moving on, why do we need to do these first two key processes, which we call as requisites? And this will really be, shall we say, this can make or break your procurement undertaking. This will help either achieve a successful awarding to the lowest calculated and responsive bidder, or this can delay or even result to a failure of procurement if we don't do this correctly, or if we don't give enough time in conducting the first two quadrants. Okay? Again, the reason why we emphasize the need to do procurement planning is because of the seemingly identified reasons of agencies in government. In the past few years, that a study was done consolidating the results of the APCPI. In other words, this is uh, a self-assessment tool used by agencies in assessing their level of compliance to RA 9184 and the rules. So in that self-assessment, the result of the APCPI as consolidated and processed, analyzed by GPPB Technical Support Office showed that most of the reasons identified by LGUs in GAs, in other words, for all agencies for that matter, that causes delay and failure of bidding boils down to poor planning, to the planning area in the first two quadrant. Seemingly, the planning areas are taken for granted by most agencies of government. Some are good, some are relatively good, but most are not still doing the correct manner or correctly procurement planning, which resulted to poor cost estimates. In other words, the ABC, the approved budget for the contract for particular procurement projects may not be really the reasonable cost for that particular project. So it's considered poor, meaning mababa po yung ABC for a particular project. So if it is mababa, low, considered siya poor, it will result to delay kasi walang bidders, walang magko-quote kasi ayaw nga nila mag-join dahil lugi sila. Okay? Wala silang kikitain dyan sa project of that government agency. Again, it could be called or they say it's a poor cost estimate because it will not be enough to provide or respond to the prescribed technical specifications of a particular goods or service. So, writing or crafting the tech specs by agencies is also another problematic area. In other words, while at the back of the minds of these end user units, they really want or need to buy a quality item. Who would not want to buy the best or the best quality of a particular item to be procured? However, the problem is they may not possess the technical expertise. They may not have been trained or experienced in crafting the correct technical specification for a quality item or goods. Okay? So, in most cases also, short of parang to make it easier for some agencies, they get copies of how do we call that, brochures or leaflets of a particular product, of a particular brand, and copy the same as their tech specs. And again, it results also to some problems even among the members of the BAC because it is not allowed. In other words, tailor fitting, we call that tailor fitting of the exact specs of a particular brand is not allowed, short of naming the brand. And remember, in the law and the rules, bawal tayo mag-indicate ng branding. Why? In one of your discussion points yesterday, what principle of government procurement will be violated if we indicate a brand? The principle on competitiveness. So the government cannot anymore choose from among suppliers the best offer kasi nag-indicate na tayo ng brand. And the bidders as well cannot also compete among themselves in providing the best offer that could best fit the need. Kasi isa na lang doon yung mag-respond. Yung company that sells that particular brand. That's why it's not allowed. Okay? So a mismatch of the tech specs and the cost is the common problem. And added to that is another area still on planning, which is the seemingly delayed submission of the end users of the PRs, purchase request percentage, because we can advise, we will now be advocating to our LGUs, to our agencies, that the PR should not be the trigger point for the actual procurement to start, but rather the back, as they have scheduled their procurement timelines and indicate it already in the annual procurement plan, should be their take-off point in conducting the actual procurement. So the PR could be issued during the execution phase as basis for the release of the item from the inventory. Okay? That could be one of the reform area that we have to encourage our agencies to do. Now, take a look at the other half. The other half are composed of several reasons which are already addressed by some of our reforms that have been in place. Itong mga approval review process, late release ng mga allotments, but the bigger part is at 22%, which is attributed to low number of bidders. So apparently, kukonti lang yung interested na bidders to join government procurement, again because of these reasons, no? Titingnan nila ang baba ng budget, ang daming requirements. Ang program of work, if these are infrastructure, ang dami na pinagagawa pala diyan sa project na yan, pero maliit lang yung budget. Another reason, the typical red tape that happens in government agencies. Delays and failures of bidding that are attributed to poor planning, or the worst, no planning at all. Okay, so these two quadrants will have to be strengthened. These two processes in LGUs have to be strengthened so that the 50% that were attributed to poor planning will be addressed. Okay, so we will now be focusing on providing the needed training, capacity development to the various end user units. Kasi yan these are the key players that are tasked to do procurement planning. Okay, now in procurement planning, as you will see here, it will involve not just one or two people in an agency, but rather a group of players or key players in the various end user units. So if in an LGU there are 20 departments, 20 offices, there would be 20 simultaneous groups that will be conducting procurement planning. And this will perhaps be their discussion points. They will be answering seemingly simple questions. Okay? And these questions, as shown here, if you will take a look and read these questions, simple questions. So here in the basic questions that have to be answered, what to buy, how many do you need, and what are the details, there are 6 questions actually that have to be addressed. Okay, what is the cost, when you need it, and how to source it. So answering each of these questions will help you fill up the PPMP as prescribed. However, providing for the correct answer to these questions may not be that easy if you don't do some data gathering from relevant sources. So in other words, in identifying, answering the first question, yes, it may be easy for you to answer this first question, what to buy. And as end user unit, you have to uh, ask yourself, based on your existing mandate, deliverables, functions, what are the items that are not available right now for you to continue carry out that particular function? And these are the items that you have to buy in addition to what you have already in the inventory. Okay? So, example, if under the new normal, which we are still, since we are still into pandemic, in fact, the president just extended the state of emergency of the entire country until September of 2022. Then we have to, as we plan, because this is the time now at the LGU level, that LGUs right now are planning and preparing for their 2022 budgets. So if you want your LGU to be already able to adapt to the new normal, maybe there is a need for you to acquire additional IT facilities like computers as your hardware. In every department, there is a need to additionally to procure additional computers. So that will be your answer to the first question, what to buy. But also be clear what kind of computer. Is this desktop or this is that a laptop? So yun, dapat very clear din tayo in listing, identifying to an answer to this first question. The second question can also be easily answered. How many computers? Okay. So based on your inventory of your existing similar equipments, you can already immediately answer the second question. Let's go to the third question. These are now the more challenging question to answer, and you may not immediately be able to provide answers to this without conducting some data gathering from the suppliers of these items, of these computers. Because in this question, you will now be answering the exact specifications, because we are now asking what are the details of this computer, of this laptop, of this desktop. So when we say details, we are now referring to the technical specifications if these are goods and services. But if these are infrastructure projects, what do we have to prepare in answering the question, what kind of building, what kind of infra project do we plan to be included in our PPMP for 2022 and have it included as well in the budget for 2022. And so, program of work has to be prepared, DED has to be prepared, and even before you start the program of work, you have to have a design for that particular project. Okay, a drawing, a design. And based on that drawing or design, you now come up with the program of work. So in other words, answering the question, the third question will take time. Okay, this cannot be answered immediately. And so there will be processes that will be introduced here for you to start the data gathering in the next succeeding slides. Okay, so the third or the fourth question is also a question that has to be answered not just in a quick click of a finger and not just by a wild guess. Kasi mahirap na yung mag-guess ka lang as to how much would it cost, particularly if this will involve several units or several quantities. And if this is particularly for a project, you cannot just guess, because again, as I've said, Your PPMP will be your supporting document to your budget that you propose. So a supporting document, this will help you justify why you are asking for a particular budget level to be included in the budget of the LGU. So that's why in your costing, you have to be supported with the different documents, and there will also be some discussions in the next succeeding slides as to how do you cost. What would be the tips that would be available to our end user units in their determination of the project cost. Okay. The next question, when do we need that particular computer? Of course, you will answer year 2022. But you know for a fact that 2022 is composed of 12 months. So you just don't answer year 2022, but rather identify what particular month or quarter as the case may be. Okay? So that your plan will be based on, because remember, when you do your procurement planning, you have also to consider the availability of the resources of the LGU. Remember, the budget of the LGU, as I've said, is composed of estimated revenue and equal to the estimated expenditure or appropriation level. And in the entire year, January to December, your revenue gradually comes in to the LGU. It is not available at the start of the year na intact yung say 50 million budget. Okay? It is not there actually at the start of the year. Yearly, on a monthly basis, your budget comes in gradually. We release the government through the DBM and the Bureau of Treasury, release your share of the IRA or NPA again on a monthly basis. Okay, and then you also collect your local revenue sources so that added to your IRA, and then you determine your level. So there are weeks for the month na you need a bigger budget availability in the bank because you have to pay salaries, you have to pay other maintenance costs, and timing of your procurement undertaking is very important so that when there are deliveries, when you say you need it in this particular month or quarter, you have to be sure that there is enough cash backup in the bank where you are maintaining the depository account of the LGU so that your treasurer can immediately also pay the service suppliers, or the once deliveries are complete, accepted by the inspection committee, and if these are projects, complete din ang inspection and acceptance. No back jobs have to be done. So in other words, you have to consider the timing of the availability of the resources at the LGU level. Okay? So that's very important. And another question, how to source. What do we mean by how to source? What would be the mode of procurement to be undertaken for this particular procurement that you will include in your plan? Will this be required to be undertaken through competitive bidding or through any of the alternative modality? Is this available locally or not? Available at the PSDBM or not? So these are the questions, simple Q&A that have to be answered as the LGU conducts the procurement planning. Okay. Why do we have to go through this Q&A portion? Just like in a beauty pageant, di ba? In any beauty pageant that we saw recently in the online selection, my Q&A also, so that we are able to choose the best representative for the country. Always the best. So in the same manner, as we procure, we always want to get the best value for money. Okay, so when I say the best, we have to schedule. One of the purpose why we have to do procurement planning, we have to do the scheduling in advance. Why? Remember, the members of the BAC, you are not hired by the LGU to do procurement 24/7, correct? That is not your only responsibility at the LGU level. These are just add-on responsibilities to the members of the BAC, correct? Most of you there are department heads, budget officer, planning officer, municipal engineer, okay? Probably also, and so you have inherent duties and responsibilities that you have to perform. So doing procurement planning in advance, scheduling in advance your activities for you to function as BAC member is very important so that it will not affect negatively your other functions. Okay? And you will be able to have or to address your schedule as well, and achieve your overall goal and objective more efficiently and effectively. Imagine how you balance as members of the BAC, how you balance your work as BAC with that of your being a full-time department head or assistant department head, as the case may be. See? So therefore, I really salute all members of our Bids and Awards Committee at the LGU level. You are doing a lot for the government. You are helping your LGU procure the much needed resources for your LGU to deliver the basic services mandated to be delivered as called for in the local government code. Okay? And so another reason why we have to do procurement planning, we have to avoid unnecessary purchases just because there are still extra budget that had not been used. Okay? At times, towards the end of the year, because we want to show to our to the government that we were able to use our budget. Kasi ngayon, hindi na nire-reward ng government yung may mga savings. Imagine that shift in our public financial management, no? Before, kung sinong agencies ang may malaking savings, nire-reward. Binibigyan ng award. Ngayon hindi, they are even penalized. Why? We have to use our budget in the year it was budgeted. So why do we have to provide a budget for something that we cannot procure in that year? So therefore, we have to do a thorough procurement planning so that we can only include in the budget something that we can do, we can actually implement. Okay? So that there will be no unnecessary procurement that will happen. And the more important reason here is to avoid possibility of circumventing the prescribed processes. Dapat this will be conducted through bidding, but because minamadali, ayan, that's the common terminology, nape-pressure na yung lahat kasi parating na yung mga bisita, parating si governor, parating si congressman, or magkakaroon na malapit na ang fiesta or anniversaries. And so we fail to plan these events in the first place. So instead of doing the prescribed bidding process, we resort to any of the alternative mode, even if these are not or justified. So see, so that's why we have to do thorough procurement planning to avoid circumventing the prescribed processes. Remember, one of the cliche that have to be remembered always, the end does not justify the means. What do we mean by that? The end does not justify the means. At times, sasabihin ng mga members ng mga agencies, lalo na pag there are threats that that will be possibly disallowed in audit. Ano yung mga justifications ng some agencies? Andyan naman, ma'am, yung project. Wala naman ghost project. Wala naman ghost delivery. The project is there. Okay? These are their reasons. Wala namang nawala. Hindi naman nalugi yung gobyerno. Nandyan naman yan. But remember, the question will always be asked, what was the process observed, undertaken by the agency in the procurement of that item? Yes, the item is there, the project is there, but the manner for which it was procured was the one questionable. So kung mali yung proseso, mali ka talaga. Okay? It cannot be cured with the explanation na nandyan naman. Mali lang yung proseso. Mali nga, so still mali. Okay? So, we can still be made accountable for that. Okay? So, again, remember the value for money concept. Kasi kung siguro sinunod yung tamang proseso, baka nakatipid pa tayo ng konti. That's one of the justification there, no? Baka nakapili pa yung government ng pinaka-best offer. And again, we know that what is the best offer? Lowest calculated and responsive for goods and infra. Kung consulting naman, highest rated and responsive bid. Okay? So, with these objectives in mind, sana masasagot ng mga ma-address na itong mga nakikita na mga seemingly still challenges that we are faced right now as we do procurement planning. Yes, we may be willing to do a market study, pero paano nga ba ginagawa ang tamang market study? Kasi you might be doing it, but not in the proper context. Okay? Or kaya nga insufficient siya. In fact, yung iba talagang wala. Wala talagang ginawang market study. Ano yun na lang yung ginawa? Hinanap yung matagal, yung last year na PPMP. Total, hindi naman natuloy. Ayun na rin, kopya natin. Kasi baka pwede pa din yun. Wala nang time gumawa ng market study. These are the common loopholes in government agencies. Parang there's no push, no, for the end user units. Parang they don't see the relevance. They don't see the importance of conducting market study. For them, enough na yon. Copy-paste yung lumang PPMP. However, when they are now made to justify, or when the budget as indicated in the old PPMP gets approved at a level na luma na pala yung budget na yon, pagdating ng panahon, hindi talaga makabili. Kasi kukulangin. Hindi na pala yun ang correct costing of the particular project. Kasi nga, it was not based on a recent market study. Have been there, perhaps if you age these computers, some of these 5 years, 10 years in the inventory already. So when you say CBA, you take a look at all these old computers and ask yourself, is this enough for us to use for 2022? We just need to upgrade this. Kasi luma na siya, matagal yung loading, hindi tayo makakonect sa internet, at times natatagalan, tuyok, ikot ng ikot, pero dapat na lang natin ito siguro i-upgrade. Lesser cost, pero ano yung benefit naman? Baka ganun pa rin. After a while, balik tayo sa matagal mag-load. So yun, as far as old inventory. What about if we buy a new one na lang? Bili na lang tayo ng bago. Ano naman yung cost doon sa bago? So definitely higher cost. Ano yung benefit doon? Of course, yung benefit, entire life, expectancy, kung 3 years, 5 years, medyo minimize pa yung maintenance cost natin kasi nga bago. Diba? At mabilis tayo makakonect sa internet. And with the new normal, Most of our meetings, even within the office, are done through virtual meetings because some of our employees are still observing the work from home arrangement, correct? Allowed pa tayo kasi nasa state of emergency. And the level, the alert level, ano ba 'yun? Level ngayon sa quarantine status, alert level 1, 2, 3, 4. Yung dating ECQ, MECQ, GCQ, MGCQ. So pag ganun pa rin, nagba-vary yung level at allowed pa rin mag-alternative work arrangement, kailangan yung mga computers ng mga empleyado, hindi na lang lahat desktop, dapat mayroon ng laptop. So they can bring sa bahay and still attend to their work. Okay, so ano ngayon ang most beneficial that can address your overall goal more efficiently and effectively? Siguro mas magandang bumili na lang tayo ng bago. If that is the decision in the CBA, then what you will fill up in the PPMT would be procurement of new computers. Correct? Procurement, if that is your decision after doing CBA. However, kung ang naging decision is okay pa naman yung 10, I hope you are there, actively listening, patiently listening, and not sleeping. I don't see you, you don't see me as well. We just see the slides on the screen. Okay? But since we are all professional adult learners here, we have to just contend with the thought that everyone are attentively listening. Okay? So moving on. Still we are still faced with this challenge that our PPMPs that we have to prepare as our output, meaning that will be the document as a result of procurement planning. At times, gumagawa tayo ng PPMP after the budget is enacted. So dapat kasi, bago pa gumawa ng budget, nagkakaroon na dapat ng mga PPMPs, yung various end user units, as basis nga for the budget to be prepared and supporting document. And so when the budget is enacted, kung mayroon man changes, imo-modify na lang kung ano yung level of the change in the approved budget level. Okay. Still, another challenge is the problem or seemingly limited pa yung mga training ng ating mga end user units in writing, crafting the terms of reference. Okay? For consulting, for goods and services, writing the text specs, kulang pa tayo ng mga expert dyan. Okay? Wala pang masyadong experience. To the point na some of our end user units, as I said, will just pass it on to the back. Bahala na kayo back. Bumili ng quality laptop for me. Tanungin ka, ano yung quality na laptop na gusto mong ipabili? Bahala ka na, basta quality. Remember, that is not the correct way. Because the word quality is relative. Meaning, quality to me may not be quality to somebody. Correct? So, when we say quality, you have to explain what is quality laptop to you, as you are the one that will use it in the first place. And focus on what will the computer help, or what will it be its function, and what will be its performance standard as well, not just the design specification. Okay? So, addressing these challenges that has just been shown will help us address these effects on procurement that we have experienced several delays, failure, and we cannot afford this to be happening every year at the LGU level. Why? Delays in procurement will be equivalent to delays in service delivery. And who are these beneficiaries of the services of the LGU? These are the more indigent marginalized sector of the society, marginalized sector of the community. Yung mga farmers, fisher folks, women's, mga unemployed, na walang mga trabaho. So yun ang naghihintay ng services ng gobyerno. Particularly as we face 2022, we are readying ourselves. We are now helping position LGUs in a way na they can immediately absorb and deliver additional services that they will be delivering starting 2022 from various national agencies. Okay? Kasi magkakaroon na tayo ng full devolution of certain government functions from the national government. Karoon tayo ng ganitong training, again, as I've said, to help LGUs prepare for a more dynamic, fast spending LGU, fast service delivery, timely, maybe not, the word not fast is timely service delivery will happen. Okay? More so, failure of procurement is failure of the government to deliver services. So, pag-iwasan natin, no? I-avoid na natin na this will recur in 2022. And so, kayo din na mga members ng PAC, hindi kayo maging haggard, stressed, as this one here in the slide. Kung maganda ang pagkaplano, magiging smooth sailing ang ating entire procurement process. Okay? Magiging more effective and efficient. And understanding, not just the what services are we offering? Basic services, alam natin yan, nasa Section 17A of the Local Government Code. Hindi lang importante, alam natin what are we delivering na services sa tao. Another important question, palalim na question, kasi yung nasa surface, ano yung dinideliver, yun lang alam natin siguro, most of us. And also how we do it. This will also be, this will vary from LGU to LGU. And the more important question to understand, why are we doing this? Why are we delivering these services? The essence of being there. What is the reason for the existence of the LGU? Okay, so important to know so that we are able to better manage our procurement and achieve what we call a more seamless procurement management. So when we say seamless procurement management, everybody, na key players na nakita natin kanina, they see, understand terminologies, they see, understand the processes at the same level. So walang mga hindering factors na makaka-delay or mag-result sa failure, but more of best practices, more of facilitative factors makikita. Kasi walang walls na nagdi-divide sa LGU into different offices. Dapat mga lang yun, figure of speech lang yung mga walls na nandyan, enclosing the various offices. But when we speak of procurement, from the planning, budgeting to procurement, dapat nakakonect tayo. Connect in a way na nakagkakaintindihan ang lahat na involved. Okay? So with that, let us pause for a short break. Knowledge check. Back to you, Joe.
Yes, ma'am. For the knowledge check, we will be flashing a series of knowledge check questions through the Zoom polling feature, and all we have to do is choose the appropriate answers in the pop-up poll. Yes, ma'am. That shall be flashed in our screens. So for our question, procurement planning is the process of identifying which project needs can be best met by procuring products and services within the project organization. Is this true or false? Meanwhile, good morning to our Facebook Live viewers. You may also participate by dropping your answers in the comment section. Meanwhile, may also remind our participants to please keep our microphones muted throughout the entire session to maintain clarity during the lecture. So I think, ma'am, we already have the majority of our participants. And majority
Okay.
of our participants, ma'am, answered true. Is this the correct answer, ma'am?
Okay, so ah masaya na sana tayo kasi 95%, pero mayroon pa rin sumagot ng 5% ng false. So, it's okay. We continue with our emphasis in the discussion that procurement planning and budgeting linkage or procurement planning is important for the agencies to do so that they can they can immediately, or they can be sure that what they need as identified in quadrant 1 will be satisfied at the end of the entire procurement process. Kasi nakita natin yung paradigm, di ba? Yung satisfaction nandito sa fourth quadrant sa baba. So kung wala kang procurement planning, how sure are we na we will be able to address satisfactorily and best met your needs? Okay? So tama po yung 95%, yung 5% gising kayo. Mas makinig sa ating discussion kasi marami pang questions later. Sana correct na yung answers ng lahat in the next question. Okay? Thank you, Kyla.
Thank you po, ma'am. Let us now proceed to the lecture proper.
Okay, sige. So moving on, we will now go to the how do we operationalize? Kasi at times sinasabi nila better said than done. Easier said than done. Linkage, procurement planning and budgeting, di ba? AIP and budgeting. Yeah, easily said than done. Easier said than done. But we can really do it. Again, if there's a way, there's a will. If there's a will, there's a way. Baliktad pala. If there's a will, there's a way. Do you agree? Spin a win. Yes, we agree. Particularly na mayroon tayo talagang legal basis. Hindi pwede kasi may mga pilosopo, di ba? At times sasabihin ka, ano naman ang rason? Bakit kailangan i-link? Pwede naman gawin separately. Ayan. So kung may maghahanap ng legal basis, mayroon tayong maipapakita. Okay? Section 7.1 of the IRR. Sinasabi sa IRR natin, especially the 2009, in fact, nag-umpisa yan, 2009 IRR. Kasi doon nag-umpisa yung pag-emphasize na natin ng role ng budget officer at to link, to ensure na magkakaroon talaga ng linkage yung procurement process sa budget process. Because prior to 2009, may mga nangyaring procurement undertaking na wala palang budget yung agency pambayad. Ano yung sinasabi pag nag-deliver na? Kasi nabili talaga. Ano sabihin? Ay maghahanap pa kami ng budget, gagawa pa ng supplemental budget. Patay kang bata ka. So anong nangyari? Umiyak yung supplier kasi maghintay pa siya ng ilang months. Buti kung months lang ang hintayin, baka taon ang hintayin. So hindi pwedeng mangyari yan, okay? Magiging bad buyer, magiging bad creditor ang government. Kaya tuloy wala nang gustong sumaling mga bidders sa government. Matagal tayong magbayad. But it should not happen anymore. Why? Starting 2009 up to 2016, IRR carried over this provision requiring mandatory na to ha. All procurement shall be within the approved budget of the procuring entity. Meaning, hindi ka makaumpisa magbili kung wala ka talagang budget for that particular item or project. And the process of ensuring na mayroon tayong budget for that particular planned procurement item should be done meticulously. Hindi lang pala siya madaling gawin. Kasi tama, meticulously sasagutin natin yung mga tanong na yun, di ba? Yung 6 questions. At yung sagot, hindi lang pala natin pwedeng pulutin just there within our office. May gagawin tayo to get this data from the market. And maraming paraan pag gusto talaga natin maging madami yung sources natin ng information. Okay? And judiciously planned. Because again, as I've said, why judiciously planned? We are not a rich government. Kulang pa rin, even with your 38% increase of your national tax allocation in 2022. Kukulangin pa rin yan. Kasi, again, number one, nag-i-increase yung population natin, di ba? With the 2020 census of population, tumaas yung number ng mga tao na nasa mga various LGUs. And another challenge, yung mga tao na nandyan, you take care of them in the LGU para hindi sila lalabas sa mga LGU ninyo, hindi sila mag-out-migrate. What do I mean by out-migrate? Ito ang reason. Okay, mayroon akong adlib dito na discussion. Ito yung reason bakit in most LGUs ngayon, with the issuance of LBM 82-A, tumaas nga yung population natin in terms of number based sa 2020 census compared sa 2015 na census. Pero tumaas na yung number numerically, pero bumaba yung share ng NTA natin. When I say bumaba, from the level ng 2015 na population. Bakit? 2015 population, mababa din naman compared to 2020 census. Pero yung proportion ng tao in your LGU in 2015 compared to the total population of the whole province, kung probinsya ka, of the whole city, kung city ka, of the whole municipalities, kung munisipyo ka, yung proportion ng population ninyo versus the total, mataas in 2015. Mataas yung ratio of proportion. Compare that with 2020. Yung proportion in 2020, most LGUs bumaba. Why? May mga lumabas sa mga LGUs ninyo, lumipat sa mga ibang regions. And that is true, particularly here in Region 8. I can speak for Region 8 because that is my region of assignment right now. Of the 149 local government units dito, 4 lang yung nagkaroon ng increase in the proportion ratio. So, anong nangyari sa 145? LBM 82 na level of the IRA, NTA, compared to LBM 82-A, bumaba. Okay, bumaba. But still, higher siya compared sa 2021. So, medyo may mga wrong appreciation yung ibang local chief executives na, akala, sabi nila, umingkrease yung IRA natin, yung NTA natin. Pero sabi ng budget officer, sabi ng mga naririnig namin, bumaba. Yes, bumaba from the tentative 2015 population to the 2020 population data. Okay? And so, all the more, we need to judiciously plan what we need to procure. Okay, because we are still faced with some limitations. So, and also, we have to be compliant and consistent with government fiscal discipline measures. What do we mean by that? We have to plan, particularly if our source of fund for this project are not local funds. In other words, if the fund source for our project that will be procured is coming from the national government agency. And if these are coming from national government agency, we should know that in the national government, funds are already given expiration date. Okay? Hindi kagaya ng IRA natin, yung NTA natin. Wala pa yan expiration date until today as we speak. How I wish in the next few years, magkakaroon din ng expiration date ang ating mga local funds. Why do I say that? In the national government, yes, we prepare a yearly budget. And so we have to also to spend that budget yearly, correct? Dapat mabilis tayo mag-spend para mabilis yung service delivery also down there sa mga barangays, sa mga munisipyo, sa mga syudad. Wala dapat natutulog na pera ng gobyerno, kulang pa nga yung pera natin. Ang daming ang reklamo sa government, di ba? Kulang. Maraming health workers hindi mabayaran, maraming namamatay kasi kulang na ng facilities with this COVID. And yet, maraming pera natutulog sa bangko. Something is wrong somewhere, correct? Kaya at the national government, ina-address na yan. Nagkakaroon na ng expiration date. Kung hindi mo gamitin yung pera within the year 2021, hindi mo naman magamit next year. Dapat lang. Dapat lang para mabilis yung lahat kumilo sa gobyerno, hindi tatamad-tamad. Walang hilaan. Kasi yung iba, mabilis, yung iba, babagal, hinihila. Yung iba naman, pinupush, kailangan itulak para gumawa ng dapat gawin. Sa LGU, balik tayo kasi LGU yung audience natin ngayon. Yearly din kayo gumagawa ng budget, correct? Yearly din kayo gumagawa ng AIP, correct? Correct. Di ba? So bakit hindi natin ubusin yan, yearly yung budget? Bakit hindi natin lahat yan gamitin to implement programs and projects? Next year, gagawa na naman tayo ng budget. E di next year, ibang project na naman yun sa ngayon. But the reality is, anong nangyayari? Tingnan nyo ngayon sa LGU levels. Kung bubusisihin natin yung mga bank accounts ng mga LGUs, sad to say, ang daming perang natutulog pa sa bangko. Okay? Pinapatubo pa natin ng interest. Yung mga projects natin na i-implement pag malapit ang election, that's a sad reality. You will agree with me, 100% for sure. Both national and local, yan ang nakikita natin. Ngayon, dahil malapit ang election, ang daming epal, ang daming epal na pumapapel. Projects, may mga pictures pa ng mga politician. It's as if personal na pera ang ginagamit. Again, election. So if you are chosen by the people, and malapit na naman yan mangyari next year, dapat hindi natin patulugin kung manalo tayo uli, hindi natin dapat pinapatulog yung pera in the next 3 years. Ilalabas lang yan pag malapit na ang election. Parang papugi points ba? Papugi points. So, how I wish, again as I've said, LGUs will also adapt na these fiscal discipline measures that are being observed already at the national level. I am one of those na advocating for that. I'm sure in the next few years, gradually, kasi ganun ang nangyayari. Una muna sa national, pag it's working talaga in the national, gradually kinakascade na natin yung mga fiscal discipline measures to the LGUs. Okay? So kayong mga LGUs, recipient kayo ng mga LGSF. LGSF, either assistance to cities, assistance to municipalities, financial assistance. Lahat ito mag-e-expire also in 2 years' time. So kung na-release sa inyo 2020, kasi 2020 siya budgeted in the GAA, until December of this year lang pwede magamit. So bilisan nyo na bago mag-expire yan. So kung releasan naman kayo from the national government ng 2021, you still have until next year to use that kasi LGSF yan. But kung checky yan, checky, usually you receive checks from DOH, from DTI, from DA, okay, from DSWD. Dapat gamitin nyo yan agad within the year. Kasi kung 2021 yan, ngayon year, nireleasan kayo ng cheque, pag hindi nyo magamit yan until December 31, 2021, to pay for service providers, you cannot use that anymore in 2021, 2022. Ibabalik ninyo yan sa national government. Can we afford to return money to the national government for failure to use that money? Oh my goodness. What an opportunity lost. Kaya nga dapat, lahat tayo kikilos sabay-sabay at the same pace, the same level of passion para alam natin na walang perang mag-expire at the end of the year. Kung kaya nga sinasabi natin, dapat better procurement management, dapat seamless procurement management para sino lang nakakaalam na may expiration date pala itong mga pera ng gobyerno coming from national. Baka si ano lang, baka si planning officer lang, or I mean si budget officer lang. Baka yung back hindi nila alam yan, kaya medyo may mga ano din, may mga delays din in the scheduling of the procurement activities, correct? Baka lahat ng end user unit hindi rin alam yan. That's why everybody has to see eye to eye, understand all planning guidelines, budgeting guidelines, procurement guidelines at the same level of understanding. Okay? Another important consideration when you do your procurement planning and ensure na mayroon tayong provision for emergency procurement, dapat mag-include na rin tayo ng mga sinatawag natin foreseeable. Foreseeable, meaning medyo alam natin may mangyayari next year na mga repairs of all our equipments. Magbabag down yan. Maski anong maintenance, mayroon pa rin wear and tear yan. So dapat mayroon tayong provision for that. Itaya, maaari nga. Okay. I have to get rid of a noisy dog here. I need help from my house help here. Okay. So what would be the basis for the provision for foreseeable emergencies? Now we can keep track of, get information from records in the accounting, kasi actual record na yan, historical records. Okay, and even the end user units can also maintain records of every time nagkakaroon ng mga major repairs ng, say for example, vehicles. So especially kung mga old ano na ito, old inventories na. So para mayroon tayong i-provide na budget as well. Okay? That's section 7.1. So if you will be asked, ano yung guidance? Ano yung tip in determining what are the needs of the agency versus wants as we identify in quadrant 1? Remember this. Kasi kulang pa nga yung mga budget natin. So pinaka-importante muna natin i-consider are those seemingly crucial to the efficient discharge of government functions. So what are these? When we say considered crucial to the efficient discharge, these are the requirements on a day-to-day basis without which pwede kayong magsarado sa munisipyo. Walang pasok today, sarado. Kasi wala kaming, ano yung wala na hindi na kayo makakapagtrabaho? Yun ang what we call as needs. Okay? And it will be along the pursuit of your principal mandate. Ano yung pinaka, as I've said, reason why you have to deliver the what's, okay? So that you will be guided in weighing what are to be included in your PPMP. Now, another provision as our legal basis is section 7.2. Section 7.2 of the IRR also requires, pinaka-cardinal rule, no procurement shall be undertaken unless it is in accordance with an approved APP. Okay? So, kung wala talaga sa APP yung item na kailangan i-procure, maski anong importante pa yan, if it is not in the approved APP, no procurement will commence. So, pwede ba tayo mag-modify ng APP to include these items na ngayon lang natin na-realize na important? The answer is yes. Pero kasi we are allowed to update our PPMP as well as the APP. Okay. Who approves the APP? The head of the procuring entity or your local chief executives or the designated authorized official. This could be the administrators in the province, city, or municipality as the case may be. Okay, so moving on, in this diagram, we will see the answers to some of the questions because in the paradigm, kanina na nakita natin na 4 na quadrant, those were the answers to the question, what are done? What are the small processes done in the entire procurement process in government? So the answers are, we identify, we assess, we procure, and we implement the contracts or POs. And what are the steps in doing these 4 key processes? These are the answers here. Bullets, statements marked with a red check. The next question, who will do this? Who are the key players that are tasked to do the identification? The answers are here, down here. These are the key players. Is in the local budget process that we should be doing the identification and assessment. And remember, the costing and the text specs writing are done here. So these are done prior to the selection process where the advertisements happens, okay? Because we do the costing and text specs writing in the planning phase. And that is during budget preparation phase. The actual procurement happens already after the budget prep phase. So either we do that during budget authorization, as we wait for the sanggunian to deliberate the budget, we can do the early procurement activity during budget authorization phase, or we can wait until the approval of the budget. And so once there is an approved budget through an APRO ordinance, pwede rin tayo mag-actual procure during budget execution phase. Okay? For small items na lang, dapat ang mangyayaring procurement dito sa execution phase. Most of the time, sa execution phase, more of implementation na tayo sa kontrata and PO. Kasi we are now going to encourage all our LGUs to do procurement during the deliberation phase. And we are now speaking of adopting one of the recent procurement reform, which is the conduct of the early procurement activity short of award. Okay? So between October to December yan, October na tayo ngayon. In the next few days, your mayors, governors will already be submitting your budgets to your concerned sanggunian, correct? Kasi October 16 ang deadline prescribed in the local government code. So after your mayor, governor submit the local expenditure program, the LEP, that is the equivalent of the NEP in the national, pag makasubmit na si Gov, si mayor sa sanggunian, stop na tayo sa budget prep. Period na. And start na tayo sa budget authorization phase. And here, there will be a revision of your indicative annual procurement plan. Based on your proposal, you can now base it on the LEP. Okay? So based on the LEP, kung ano yung nandoon na mga projects to be implemented or to be procured through bidding, pwede na mag-conduct ng EPA. Okay? And we will do, there are some slides that will follow later as we discuss the conduct of the early procurement activity. So what is shown here, my friends, are again the how we operationalize the linkage of procurement planning, the first 2 quadrant, with the budget preparation phase. So see, we do this at the right time. Okay? So right time is, ano yung exact month? If we ask ourselves, ano yung months na dapat gumagawa na kami ng mga market study. Dapat as early as January. You don't have to wait for the DBM to issue the budget call. Kasi yung budget call for 2022 was issued sometime May. So even before May, dapat gumagawa na tayo sa Quadrant 1. So that pagdating ng budget call, more of refinements na lang kung ano na yung nasa PPMP. Kapit? Yung market study ginawa nyo na prior to the budget call issuance. Remember yung budget call na ini-issue ni DBM, gumagawa din si mayor, si governor ng budget call. Mayroon din siyang budget message. So prior to that, dapat mayroon na kayong nagawang PPMP. More of refinements na lang. And more of assessment na lang. Okay? Para hindi naman tayo nakukulang ng time in the preparation of the PPMP, and so nagsisircumvent na tayo. Hindi na tayo nakakagawa ng thorough market study. Kasi most of the time, yung compliance na lang ang sinusunod natin. Deadline ang hinahabol natin. Okay, so I hope we are able to see the connection here. And this paradigm again summarizes that for us to be successful in satisfying all the identified needs by the end user units, everybody, all these key players has to understand, work at the same speed, at the same pace, no? Para alam natin, ini-expect natin by now, ito na, by this time, ito na ang nangyayari, everybody. And we all understand the fiscal budgetary limitations of everybody. Okay, walang mga false expectations na can cause some conflicts at the agency level. So some of the basic principles in the conduct of market study, ito na yun, no? Some of these are done manually if allowed by the local interagency task force. Some can be done online. You can call, you can use the online facility in gathering the data. Kasi kung ito ang gusto natin mangyari, ito yung dapat natin masatisfy, magga-gather tayo ng mga requirements from the market, and we will analyze this information for us to develop our procurement plan. So this is the flow of the market study. So parang hindi naman siya ganun ka very intimidating. We can use another term which is more understandable to most of us, and that is what we call pre-canvas. So in other words, we do pre-canvas to gather this information. So you prepare a canvas and distribute that to your suppliers and retrieve that and inform them. Now, this is not yet the final. This is just a pre-canvas for basis in gathering information, because your market study could help you, and these are the advantages that we will derive if we do a market study, if we do pre-canvas. Other than we get information as basis in filling up, answering those questions kanina as to details, as to cost, no? We can also save time. We can also save cost in our activities. In other words, we can be more efficient in maximizing our most precious resource with our market study. And when you say equal opportunities, kung sino yung mga bidders na nakaka-provide, if there are 5 bidders that are qualified and are can provide for the item that we need, then give all the 5 bidders equal opportunity to post-qualification doon sa pinaka-lowest to determine if responsive. So see? And we can be more transparent kasi marami tayong nag-gather na data, and we can include as many information in our bidding documents as well. And so we can be more transparent. And these are the forms that have to be filled up by the various end-user units. Ito yung magiging output ng various end-user units as they are done with the procurement planning activity. And remember, your PPMPs will also be transformed from indicative to the final as your budgets are approved. Nagva-vary din yung, at times kasi sa LGU, most of the time, nagre-reduce yung appro ordinance compared sa budget as proposed. Kaya posible din magkaroon ng mga adjustment in the various PPMPs. Okay. So, the column headings of the PPMP, I think you are familiar already with this. BACSEC, you can provide guidance to all our end-user units out there. Ito yung forma. And you can prepare this depending also on your fund source. Kasi madami din possible fund source ang ating LGUs from local and from the national government. And as you will see, the questions kanina, what to buy, you fill it up, column 1. How many? Column 2. Actually, column 3 kasi may code pala tayo. Yung code dito pertains to the AIP reference code. Okay? Because we are linking AIP to the budget. So AIP to the budget as well as to the our procurement documents. So the answer naman to how much would it cost is column 4. Indicate that in column 4. How do we source it? Indicate in column 5. And when, you indicate the proper column here. In the PPMP, it's broken down into months, but in the APP, as a consolidation, it is now by quarter. Okay, so some more tips in identifying your needs in quadrant 1. Again, refer to your core function. Since the LGU is like a mini Republic of the Philippines, you are a small Republic of the Philippines because in the LGU you have various, you also have your health, you also have your agriculture, your social welfare, your engineering, your budget, your accounting. So lahat ng opisina are considered end-user units and iba-iba yung functions nila, correct? Iba-iba yung core function, meaning iba-iba yung mga deliverables nila, yung services that they offer. So there could be needs na nagbavari also. So si health will have medicines, si agriculture will have perhaps seedlings, fertilizers, pesticides, which is unique to their particular department. Okay? So this will be your guide in determining what are your needs. And also your strategic plans. Remember, for 2022, 23, 24, LGUs will be journeying towards a full devolution journey. So if all of our LGUs will be strategically positioning themselves to be prepared for the full devolution, and they are now in fact preparing their devolution transition plans, so that should be part also of the identification. Ano yung mga kakailanganin natin? So that we will be eventually able to absorb the additional services that we will be delivering starting 2022. Kasi hindi na i-deliver ni DA. Tayo na talaga sa LGU. So, approved budget for the contract. Kasama din yan sa challenge natin as of now na some of our end-user units need help in the costing, determining the cost. And we have here some guidance in the next succeeding slides that can help our end-user units come up with a reasonable ABC that you will reflect in the APP and PPMP. And take note, the cardinal rule here, your cost that will be reflected in your APP and PPMP shall be based on your APRO ordinance level, particularly yung final na APP and PPMP. Kasi syempre, nung una, when we started to prepare, these were still indicative. When you say indicative, based on the proposal pa lang. So once there is an APRO ordinance, you check Nagbago ba yung level ng opisina ko ay MDA? Bumaba ba yung budget ko as approved by the sanggunian or hindi? So magkakaroon ng adjustment accordingly from indicative to the final level. Okay? So let's have again another knowledge check, short break. Back to you, Kyla.
Yes, ma'am. We are now on our second knowledge check. For this question, we will be again flashing the question through the Zoom polling feature, and all we have to do is check and choose the appropriate answers in the pop-up poll that shall be flashed on our screens. So for our question, who must consider the different cost components in determining ABC? Is it A, the PWG, B, the back secretariat, C, the end user, or D, all of the above? Meanwhile, we would also like to remind our Zoom participants to please accomplish the daily attendance sheet by clicking the link provided by our event secretariat in the Zoom chat box.
Is our speed all right?
Yes po, ma'am.
Kyla, the
Okay naman
pacing
po.
so far okay ba?
Yes po, ma'am. Okay na okay po.
Hindi naman masyadong mabilis.
Ma'am, sa akin po okay naman po.
Okay.
Baka po yung mga participants po natin, kamusta naman po ba ang ating pacing?
Yeah, kindly chat. How I wish we can be as interactive, no? Kaya lang, at times nai-eat up din yung oras kung hinihintay natin yung mga sagot ng participants. And as we want to cover as many as we can cover in the discussion, no?
Yes po,
But
ma'am.
feel free. There are times kasi I ask questions, but I also immediately provide the answer. Diba? Oo. Kasi usually, pag face-to-face yan, hinihintay ko yung sagot bago ako magpo-proceed. Kaya lang sa virtual, at times nasasayang din ako sa time. But
Opo.
to our dear participants, please feel free to answer 50.
Yes, ma'am. 50. Answered all of the above.
So meaning, hati sila. Yung iba, ano yung sagot ng iba?
Bali po, ma'am, out of... Yes.
Iba-iba naman. Okay. So medyo, okay, let me emphasize. The role, I mean, among the key players, okay, among the key players, the pinaka-importante talaga na mag-initiate, mag-umpo, i-review pa yan, it will be still subject to assessment sa quadrant 2, di ba? So doon sa assessment, pwede na nga, kaya siguro man nagsagot itong 51%, all of the above. Kasi nga, including the back, in fact, will help in determining kung tama ba yung cost na na-factor in ng end user unit. But let me point out that the important role talaga is that of the end user unit. Okay? In previous batches, majority would answer end user units and some would answer the others. But here apparently mas madami yung all of the above. Okay? So still learning curve, okay lang. Let's continue to be more attentive in the discussion and also find time to also read what are in the slides, because at times I don't read everything in the slides. I explain it in my own. So if you are just listening and not reading, you might be missing some of the important key points ng mga papel, kaya hindi na kayo nagbabasa, nakikinig na lang kayo sa akin. So some of, again, as I've said, some of the key points are in the slides. So dapat alert lahat. Okay. So moving on. Can I now move on, Kyla?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you po.
Okay. Budget officer is here. Okay. So all LGUs, mayroon kayong appointed or designated budget officer. So ito yung importanting role ng ating mga local budget officers, ha? Kasi yung role ninyo dito is to ensure that the total budget requested of the end user unit by the end user unit is included in the budget proposal. It is not for the budget officer to question why Why are you proposing for this and why not that? Why not this? Why that? That's not the role of the budget officer, okay? It's the decision of the end user unit. So kaya nga sila ang nag-identify ano yung kailangan nilang i-include in their plan. Okay, meron yatang naka-unmute na speaker na mic. So the role of the budget officer is to check again whether the cost involved in the total PPMP for the cost column is part of the budget proposal of that particular office. Kaya nga yung budget call na ini-issue ni governor ni mayor, nakalagay yan. Based on the budget call ni DBM na all department heads has to submit their budget proposal with attached PPMP to ensure na yung total ng PPMP ay pasok sa budget proposal. That is how we operationalize the linkage of procurement to the budget. Okay, I hope that's very clear again, ha? I'll repeat that emphasis again. I have repeatedly mentioned that. Before the PPMP gets to the hands of the BACSEC. So hindi diretso, ha? Okay? Then ikaw, budget officer, wag mo naman patagalin sa office mo. Kasi rubber stamp ka dyan. Pag na-stamp mo, dumaan sa'yo, meaning, okay siya, pasok sa budget, forward it to the BACSEC. Pag hindi naman siya pasok sa budget proposal ng end user unit, balik mo, return to the end user unit. Okay? So that i-amend ni end user unit yung budget proposal niya to include the cost of the PPMP. Then, balik ulit sa'yo, then saka mo na i-forward sa BACSEC. Is that clear? Kung mayroon tayong mga budget officers na participants out there, I hope that's very clear. Okay, so next. Ito ngayon yung mga tips para sa pag-determine ng ABC. Paano natin dinidetermine yung ABC? Pwede siya magpatulong sa TWG or anyone na anong tawag ito, na technical person. Okay? So that's for the question when. But as to the manner or the strategies that may be observed by our end user units is in determining costing is doing a market study or conducting a pre-canvas. And who does that? End user. It's here, no? End user. So, the information that they will gather from that market study includes how much is the current price in the market today. Okay? How much computer cost now? So, based on your canvas, pre-canvas, nag-averaging ka, perhaps. Kasi baka 5 yung tindahan, supplier ng mga computers. And then, nag-averaging ka. O baka nasa mga 25,000 yung cost ng isang laptop. But you know for a fact na you are now projecting the cost of a laptop which you will eventually buy in a later time, on a later date. Hindi ka ngayon bumibili. Nagpaplano ka pa lang to buy after several months or after a year. Kaya dapat, from that current price, common sense will tell us na magdadagdag tayo ng inflation cost. Okay? Kasi bibilhin natin ito future pa, in 2022 pa. Kasi kung 2021, wala na tayo ngayon, market study for 2021. Dapat by now, October, nag-i-implement na tayo. Nasa quadrant 4 na tayo dapat ngayon. Okay? So factor in inflation cost, including the cost of money related to the procurement timetable must also be considered. So, yung value ngayon may not be the same value, the same in 2022. Okay? So, kung 25,000, unless ini-expect natin na bababa na ang cost kasi may bagong lalabas na mga new models or new brand. But pag relatively new pa in the market, the tendency pa is the cost to rise, no? Pataas pa yan in the next few years kung bago pa yan siya na labas in the market. So that's part of the market study, knowing what are the models, the brand that are there, how many years na ito sa market. Just take note sa brand, the specs, the cost. But again, since bawal tayo mag-indicate ng brand, we will just make use of these references information as our input as we process later the data. Okay? And in the in the last bullet here, it speaks of the need for an end user unit for help from a TWG as the need arises. So when necessary, yan. But its main responsibility in determining the cost, the various cost component is that of the end user unit. Okay, I hope that's clear and clarify the answer that was shown kanina in the later. So when you say project costing, again, we are projecting a future cost. Kaya nga the word project or forecast kasi future pa siya. So we will be adding, adding individual cost components or individual cost elements of the portions or the various elements or cost components of a particular project and add it and factor in the future cost, okay? Based on what is known today. That is what we mean by project costing. A practice of forecasting the cost of completing a project with a defined scope. So kung infra naman ito yung program of work niya, ito yung design niya, ito yung DED niya today, magkano kaya ang gagastusin natin nito next year? These are the costs today, so we will take it from there and project the future cost. And as we project or predict the cost, we consider the quantity. So kung madami yan, baka may economies of scale tayo na makuha. Kasi kung volume procurement or bulk procurement, the tendency is pwede makapagbigay ng lesser cost yung mga suppliers. Correct? Pero kung piecemeal, we cannot expect a discount for bulk procurement. So if a-factor in natin yan, including the cost and price of resources required by the scope of an asset investment option activity or project. So, ano yung mga to be considered as we determine the cost estimate? Remember my scheduled time frame tayo. Okay? So when you determine using experience and calculating, forecasting the future cost of the resources, methods and management within a scheduled time frame, and this will be your guidance because we are given some timelines for us to decide. Itutuloy ba natin ito? Kasi deadline na ng submission ng PPMP. So kailangan ba natin ito include in our PPMP or wag muna? So decision is important whether to proceed or not. And so you need to gather as fast as you can the needed information that will help you decide with finality. Ayan. Kasi sabi nga dito, it is critical for deciding whether to proceed or not. Ano ang magiging eventual scope ng project na ito? So, ikukumpleto ba natin yung lahat ng component ng project? Ito ang magiging cost. Kaya ba ito in 1 year? Or hindi? Dapat i-by phase natin. So, phase 1 lang muna kasi yan lang ang kaya natin ngayon ma-foresee. So, next na naman, as the project is ongoing, then we plan for the phase 2, then makikita na natin ano yung mga kailangan. So, that could be the reason why you need to really have some guidance in determining the cost and mayroon kang timeline na sinusunod, especially for medyo multi-year project. Okay? Kasi may mga ano yan, may sustainability issue yan. Baka kaya natin mag-umpisa pero hindi natin kaya tapusin. Kasi marami palang mga cost component na hindi natin na-foresee. So yan, no? That could be a problem as you proceed with the project. So, okay, we used this already kanina. When do we do cost estimation? Dito sa PPMP. Pero may assessment din na gagawin possibly dito sa second quadrant as they assess and review the PPMPs. Okay? So when are cost estimates prepared? Again, as early as budget prep. Okay? Kasi sabi natin nga, PPMPs are required to support budget proposal of government agencies. So in your case, LGUs, since all departments are made to prepare their own budget proposal, attachment yung PPMP na i-consolidate na ngayon ni BACSEC after dumaan kay budget officer. So si budget officer ang magko-consolidate ng budget proposals while si BACSEC ang magko-consolidate ng lahat ng attachment na PPMPs. Okay? Is that clear? I hope that's clear. So here shown are the various tools in project costing. So there are in a separate training that I attended where there were longer time given to discuss ABC determination or project costing. These were lengthily discussed. Itong mga tools in project costing. For now, with our limited time and with other topics to be included in the discussion, there are simple, brief description of all of these tools. Analogous estimating, parametrics estimating, bottom-up estimating, and life cycle costing. So what do we mean by each of these? Let's take a look at the matrix summarizing the strengths, the weaknesses, and how we can apply these tools in project costing and ABC determination. Okay? And if after this training, medyo we are not yet confident in doing this, you request for another round of, you can attend to another round of training with the GPPB TSO with modules separate for ABC costing, separate module for text specs writing, and there mas ma-level up yung mga insights that you will gain out of this lecture now. Kasi medyo limited lang yung mga slides natin ngayon. Okay? So, dito sa applicability, yun, you can make use of this for, as I said, as it applies. Kasi nagbabary yung mga applicability of these tools. Okay? What is important here among the tools that are shown here, itong elements of life cycle costing. Yung elements of life cycle costing reminds us na these are at times our weakest link in government kasi most of the time, what we only consider as we plan is the acquisition cost. Magkano kaya yung cost ng computer? Baka hindi natin na-foresee yung anong tawag nito? Yung antivirus software, yung mga applications na kailangan ninyo din i-install in that computer, ano yung mga systems na dapat nandyan, yung memory capacity, meaning these are all the requisite of a particular item or computer. And at times also yung delivery cost hinders the agency to already make use of, to make that item more functional. Delivery cost, installation cost, including testing cost, could also be some of the cost component that we have to factor in as we plan to procure a computer. Example, maybe not too much installation cost kasi madali naman ikabit yung mga computer sa mga ano natin, cable system in the office, di ba? Pero what about if we are procuring, for example, generator set? Para yung lahat ng mga meetings in the office, mag-brown out man, kasi hindi stable lalo na sa mga provincial level, sa mga municipal levels, may mga areas na hindi stable ang mga ano natin, power supply. What about if there are ongoing meetings? Dapat may standby 24/7 tayo na generator set. Okay? So, if you are planning to buy a genset with the purpose, ano yung function niya? To provide a 24/7 standby power supply in the event may kakaroon ng mga brownout. So, ano yung kailangan, ano yung mga cost element ng isang genset? Hindi lang yung cost ng genset sa tindahan yung i-consider natin, but also the delivery cost. Kasi kung malaking computer yan for the whole Kapitolyo, for the whole City Hall, malaki yan. You can just imagine the size, no? And so also the weight of that must be very heavy. Hindi yan kaya buhatin ng tao. Baka kailangan na yan ng machine to deliver that. Okay? So, in other words, when you package your procurement project, it will not just be acquisition of procurement or acquisition of genset, but it will already include the other components. So the package would perhaps be already supply, delivery, installation, testing of the generator set. Okay? Or even included pa yung training doon sa assign na mag-ooperate. Kasi not everybody can just go near a genset on the future years. But you have to consider maintenance cost. Kung genset yan, anong kailangan mo din para magamit yung genset? Baka wala kang budget for gasoline, for fuel. Okay? Kasi kung mag-brown out, kung may power supply, wala kang kailangan na additional budget for fuel except for your vehicles. Pero kung nagba-black out, you will use the genset. How will it function without fuel? Okay? Operating cost for regular check and maintenance para hindi naman siya mag-bog down. And the function, the purpose for which it was procured will still be fulfilled. Okay? So these are some of the tips. And when we are now, okay, that's end of the project costing. Those are the tips that we can share for now. Let's go to text specs writing. This is also one of the challenging discussion. Because again, text specs will dictate the cost. So kung alam mong magsulat ng technical specifications, may expertise ka na, acquire ka na, or natulungan ka in the meantime na you are still learning, this will be your basis to determine also the cost. The higher the text specs or the latest are the text specs, the program of work, the bigger scope of work, the bigger the budget is needed. So the same for text specs for goods. Kung high-end yung mga technical specifications natin for computer, expect also to request a bigger budget. And so kung tanungin ka, why 35,000? Na 20,000 man lang yung computer na na ordinary? Because the text specs that we need, because it will be used, ano yung function ng computer? It will be used for online meetings, na kailangan namin malakas yung connection sa internet, madali makakonect sa internet, gagamitin yan by the BACSEC for posting sa PhilJeps. So mga ganong example of functionality description or functionality text specs. So you have to include that in this write-up. Okay? Ano yung kailangan na need to be satisfied? What do you want really to buy? Ano yung expectation mo sa bibilhin mo? And that will now be the basis later on by the back in the process of selection. Kasi di ba sabi natin, procurement is the process of selection from among suppliers who can best fit the need. So kung wala kang tech specs, anong basis mo to determine responsiveness? Wala. So kung sino yung lowest, immediately, i-recommend mo na for award. Eh yun pala, pangit yung quality. Di ba? So we are not able to all the key players in choosing and ensuring that the need will be satisfied. And there is also a process suggested for our end user unit as guide. Okay? In writing tech specs. It's not also that easy. It may not also be that difficult kasi yung iba na intimidate siguro kaya nagka-copy-paste na lang sila sa mga handouts, leaflets ng mga particular brand. Tapos binubura yung brand. Kino-cover ng ng tape or parang in other words, short of naming the brand, which is also COA-able and ombudsmanable. Kasi tailor-fitting yan. Bawal din yan. Kaya nga, there are tips here how we can combine, how we can write the text spec so that we cannot be charged with tailor-fitting. Okay? So first in the process of developing a text specs or writing text specs is you have to analyze ano ba yung kailangan mong bilhin. Okay, anong kailangan mong bilhin? Computer. Para saan? Anong gamit ng computer? Hindi naman pan Facebook lang, ha? Bawal na nga tayo maggamit ng computer during office hours. Pero kung after office hours, baka naman pwede. Kaya kami sa DBM, mayroong ano yan, anong tawag nito, may wall. Hindi pwedeng mag-install ka ng mga social media, sa mga official issued na mga computers. So, bili ka ng personal mo na lang. So, anong function ng computer? For virtual meetings, used in attending virtual meetings, encoding reports, and posting in the field jobs, generating, processing reports. Kung sa engineering naman, yung pag-prepare ng mga design, di ba? May app na tayo sa mga, anong tawag dyan? Yung application na hindi ka na gagawa hindi ka na magsusukat-sukat talaga. Yung blue, ano ba yung tawag dyan? Sa mga engineers, blueprint. Ayan, yung blueprint ng mga drawing, ng mga, ngayon madali na kasi may mga AutoCAD na, di ba yung AutoCAD, tama. So yun, kung yun ang purpose, ilagay nyo. I-indicate nyo. That's for the function, ha. Performance naman, ano dapat yung performance? Okay? So kung sabihin 12 persons, so alam na natin agad yung design, may imagine mo na yung design without even seeing the picture, di ba? Kasi yung design, dito na yan papasok sa another area, sa design specifications. So sa function, performance, and technical characteristics, yun, you have to write it. In other words, dapat alam mo, related sa function mo, ha? Related sa need mo. Then after that, you gather information from possible sources. So, ano yung mga possible sources mo? This could be, yun na nga, sa market, manually, or even online. You use online facility to gather information. So this pandemic should not stop us, but should even let's turn the pandemic into an opportunity for us to do even more. Because now we are seeing, ako for example, I started to appreciate conducting lectures virtually kasi I could lecture to as many as I can. I don't have to travel to Manila, to Davao, to Mindanao. But I can reach out to these people via virtual meetings, lectures, correct? Kasi kung face-to-face, nako, lalo na ngayon na may limited lang tayo sa iilan tao, nakadistansya, nakakover pa yung mukha, di mo makilala. At least ngayon, virtually, wala tayong worry na may expose tayo. So to me, I really appreciate itong making use of the online technology in doing our work. Most of the time, I'm work from home, but it doesn't at all hamper our work in the office. Again, I can even do more. Okay? So the same, gather data online and even through journals. We can benchmark with other government agencies by calling, sending emails. And from there, as you have gathered data, you sort out, you process, ano yung relevant data, ano yung irrelevant, ano yung pwede mong pagsamahin, okay? And now you start to draft your specification and translate that into specific requirements na understandable, understandable, hindi lang ikaw ang nakakaintindi. Remember, you are a buyer. You will be submitting this to your BAC and your BAC is your procurement arm. Baka hindi rin maintindihan ng BAC. At pag ma-publish na yan, ma-post na yan, baka hindi rin maintindihan ng mga suppliers. So there are also tips how we can ensure na clear ang ating mga tech specs. So this could be the various sources of the information, previous records of your previous procurement activities. You can write, email, call other suppliers for further information. Ito yung sinasabi ko na pwede kang mag-request mag-submit ng pre-canvas and request the supplier to fill in the blank there and submit it back to you, retrieve it. Then government agencies. So kung sa LGU ninyo, you are planning to buy vaccines, di ba? Medicines. So kanino tayo nagtatanong? Kanino tayo nagko-coordinate for the tech specs or for the para successful ang procurement natin? DOH. Kung sa agriculture naman, sa DA. Okay? And if ito yung sinasabi ko sa mga online stores. Okay. Now moving on. Still on tech specs writing. Ano dapat yung magiging characteristics ng mga tech specs natin as we plan and as we encode that, as we fill in the PPMP column? Now, be guided with this. Our tech specs should be clear. Meaning, when you say clear, kung sinabi natin computer, desktop, very clear yan na desktop. Kasi kung computer lang, baka sabihin ng iba, laptop. Pero yung pala, yung nasa isip pala ng end user, desktop. Or baliktad. Yung nasa isip ng end user, laptop, pero yung nabili, desktop. So, para hindi mali, let's be clear, okay? And let's be concise. Hindi wordy yung mga tech specs natin. It should immediately point out to some mandatory requirements clearly, directly. Pero yung mga generic naman na requirements, baka pwede siyang flexible. Okay? Para consistent tayo sa magiging functionality and performance. And we are also observing the competitiveness principle. Remember na ang tech specs natin should not allude to a particular brand. Otherwise, we can be charged with tailor fitting again. And when we say complete, yan. So patulong ka na dito para sure tayo ano ba talaga ang gusto nating bilhin. Okay? Now, for some guidance, there are 3 types of specifications that you can consider and you can combine as you write the tech specs of the particular item you want to buy or project you want to include in your procurement planning, in your PPMP. And I mentioned this already. One of the important, kaya nga nasasabi natin na kailangan talaga yan, need. Kasi pag wala yan, I cannot function. Yan. I cannot anymore do what I am expected to do. Because you need a computer to help you do that. Yan. That's the functional specifications. Okay? The performance is mag-drive kaya hindi ako masyadong techy sa mga sasakyan. Yung may dual, ang alam ko lang na yung hindi ka mag-i-slide, paakyat ka, nahihirapan yung engine, umakyat, mayroon kang ginagawa dyan para hindi ka din mag-i-slide back. Ayan, dual yata ang term dyan. Okay? So that's performance. Or it can traverse a rugged terrain kasi pala gagamitin nyo yan sa monitoring ng mga ninyo projects doon sa bundok, doon sa barangays. LGU tayo, di ba? May mga projects tayo sa mga barangay, sa mga sitio. Baka hindi paved yung mga barangay roads natin. So yun yung magiging performance specification natin ng vehicle. Especially yung mga rescue vehicle natin, ha? Dapat talaga siya, pang rugged na mga terrain. Okay? Then, design. Ito naman yung common, which at times, dito lang nakatutok naman minsan. Nakakalimutan natin i-factor in itong dalawa. So dapat, yung end user unit should have a way of combining what are relevant characteristics dito sa functional and performance and design para maka-come up tayo ng more kumpleto na tech specs. Okay? Kung baga wala ka nang hahanapin pa doon sa naka-write up na tech specs, kumpleto na siya. Now, if you are procuring goods, yung guidance that we can provide generally is mas nape-prefer ng mga end user unit i-include or if ang magiging dominant na tech specs would be the performance or the functional specifications rather than the design. Okay? Kasi sinasabi natin, wag natin ilagay sa tech specs paano gagawin, paano magiging compliant yung product, yung goods sa tech specs mo. Let the supplier adapt or tweak the design of their products to suit to our performance and functional specifications. Kasi pwedeng gawin yan ng mga suppliers, ng mga manufacturers, I mean. Kasi baka supplier, lang siya, hindi siya yung nagmamanufacture, no? So doon sa level ng manufacturing source, they can adjust their design to suit to what is needed in the market. Kaya dapat ilalagay natin yon. Kaya nga mas maganda din yung may tinatawag tayong market sounding. Sinasabi natin, tinatawag natin yung mga possible suppliers. By 2022, we would need as many as like this. Pero ito dapat ang gagamitan namin. Ganito dapat ang itsura niya. Not necessarily itsura, ganito yung function niya, ganito yung performance niya. And so kayo na mga manufacturers, kung kayo yung nagpo-produce ng product na to, you still have enough time to provide what is needed in the market. Kasi ang common reason why there are failures of procurement, yung gustong bilhin ng buyer, wala na sa market. Correct? Wala na sa market. Yung gusto nating design, wala na sa market. Phased out na. Yung nandyan, hindi natin alam. Kasi hindi nga tayo nag-conduct ng pwede tayong hindi nag-conduct ng market study. Kasi nga, minadali na lang natin yung fill up ng TPMP. Nag-shortcut na lang tayo. Copy? So that is also the reason why there are failure of bidding. Kasi nga, hindi tayo nakapag-check sa market. Nag-imagine lang tayo, ay mayroon yan, hindi pa yan mauubos. And when indeed we went to the market, we already made the canvas, RFQ, totoo nga, wala. Sayang yung time and effort natin, di ba? Okay? So for goods for services naman, specifications for services, please take note of these key points here. May mga guidance tayo that is provided here. Okay? So that ang ating text specs for services, mas kailangan kasi siya more detailed, more specific. Example, ito, so ang mga janitors, messengers, security guard. Alam natin, sa janitors, importante lalo na kung multi-story office tayo, dapat klaro sa kanila sinong naka-assign saan. Okay? Kaya kailangan detailed description. Including the place, saan sila. Sa first floor, sa second floor, sa third floor, or sa grounds lang sila. Maintenance lang sila sa mga tanim, sa mga pagwalis sa grounds para palaging spick and span, no? At how often? Yan, kailangan din. How often ang pagwalis, pagmap ng floor. These are all the required suggested inclusion in the text specs, including in fact the rating performance. How will we rate the services rendered? Kasi usually, ito yung mga outsourced services na pinoprocure ng mga ahensya. Okay? Ito ang maganda ding gawin ng mga LGUs, particularly LGUs who are all still having problems with the PS limitation. Kasi kung madami kang janitor, madami kang security guard, madami kang messenger na hinahire, that's PS, siniswelduhan. So ngayon, ang pinakamagandang strategy na sa mga LGUs natin, once the position is vacated, they don't anymore fill up the vacated position, they abolish that, and then they procure the services from agencies. Okay? Especially for those provinces and cities kasi medyo they are in location na may mga available agencies providing for these services. Okay, so yan. Kung infra naman, our text specs is more matrabaho, more paperwork. Hindi siya as simple as that for goods and services. Kasi here, as I've said, we would start with a detailed drawing. Kumbaga, mayroon kang design. And from that design and drawing, gagawa ka na ng program of work. Okay, and the program of work will be the basis also of the detailed engineering design and estimate, correct? Including the specifications for all materials that will be used by whoever will be the winning bidder, including standard of workmanship and machinery. Kailangan din natin ilagay yan sa technical specifications. In fact, in some areas, especially some of the construction projects, including the site inspection is required and determine first the condition of the soil. Baka hindi siya feasible for construction of a high-rise building. Yan, so kailangan i-check yung subsurface. Baka okay lang siya up to how many foot deep, pero pag palalim na, medyo problematic pala kasi rocky pala yung sa ilalim. So it can really also be a cause of delay later on in the implementation kung hindi siya masama sa program of work or sa mga anong tawag nito, sa pag-write up ng technical specs for your infra projects. Okay? So include even the terms of installation. Kung mayroon naman mga projects sa sina-infra, nakasama pati yung mga, anong tawag nito, yung mga goods component. Okay, like example, yung mga air conditioning units, lalo na yung mga tanner na, yung mga malalaking air conditioning units, or those that needs a condenser to be installed outside. Dapat i-install yan, magbubuta. So at times, most of the infrastructure projects already include the goods component. So that is an example of a mixed procurement. So even the specification of the air conditioning, ang napoprocure talaga ng mga LGUs natin are really consulting services. Okay? Kasi ano yung mga pabirong sinasabi ng mga iba sa mga LGU, nag-hire sila ng consultants. Consultants. Hindi talaga consultants, kundi yung mga ano daw, mga sip-sip. So, yung mga taga-bantay lang. Yung mga taga-sumbong. So, ito naman siguro yung tipo, kaya ganun yung pag-understand sa kanila. Kasi ito yung mga sinasabi natin, may level of confidentiality, yung nature of work nila. Okay? So, kaya hindi pwede kung sino-sino lang. At hindi siguro na ito kailangan ng talagang technical expertise, but more of the trust and confidence. So, hiring din yan ng consulting services. So, ano yung objective, ano yung scope of work, training. Kung nag-hire kayo ng consultants to come up with a training design, dapat. So, in writing text specs, overall guide, at nahihirapan pa rin kayo with these tips na binigay natin, goods infra consulting, another tip that you can do is consult who are the beneficiaries, who will be using. In other words, who are the stakeholders? And because again, they can be your source of information. Another is hire technical experts, either as technical working group or as consultants. Kaya yung iba nag-EFS. Nagkakandak muna sila ng feasibility study. Okay? Para alam nila ano yung magiging scope ng mga project. And in setting specifications, either for goods, infra, and consulting, ito yung mga guidance. When we say clear, not subject to double interpretation, and ambiguous siya. Because again, we are reminded with Section 18, bawal ang branding. Then if these are IT projects, dapat again, yung specs natin are updated. Kasi baka na talaga na phase out na yon, yung available, ito na ngayon. I-update mo yung specs din natin. Huwag nating ipilit yung na phase out na. And again, consider what will really fit the end user requirements. Okay? So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na at times it's difficult to write text specs kasi magbabalancing balancing act. Just like here. So, kung mga mandatory requirements, dapat specific and detailed ka dito. Okay? Kasi mandatory siya. Pero kung mga hindi naman siya mandatory requirements, baka pwede ka dito maging flexible, pero without compromising naman the objective. So, paano ka magiging specific and detailed at the same time flexible? Yan. So, kaya nga, sinasabi natin, medyo challenging and more training tayo dito na kailangan sa mga end user unit level. Okay? And let's explain the intent and purpose. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, functionality. And ano yung i-expect natin? Remember ito, specify what you need and not how to get what you need. Kasi how to get what we need is the concern of the supplier. Okay? Hindi na sa atin yan. Sabihin lang natin ano yung kailangan natin. And remember the competitiveness principle. Lagay tayo ng specs that will help ensure competition among possible service providers. Okay? So, short break again. Back to you, Kyla.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, we are now on our third knowledge check. For our Zoom participants, kindly answer through the polling feature, while our Facebook Live participants can answer through the comments section. So the question is, technical specifications must be prepared after posting or advertisement. If specifications are not properly prepared, it will be almost impossible to complete the bidding process and award a contract. Is this true or false? So we're very thankful to our participants who are actively joining in our knowledge check. as this is a way for us as participants to test ourselves kung naiintindihan po ba talaga natin yung topic. So okay lang po talaga magkamali as long as natututo tayo.
Yes. Okay, correct.
So I'm seeing a rise in our participants who are joining the knowledge check. Hintayin lang po natin na makapag gather tayo ng sufficient number of participants who are answering. Majority of our participants, ma'am, answered false. Is this the correct answer, ma'am?
Okay. Taken as a whole yung question, the answer, the 69% is correct. The answer is false. Kasi, ang text specs has to be prepared before the posting. Okay? However, taken separately, yung first statement, the answer is false. The second statement, the answer is true. Okay? Copy?
Yes, ma'am. I hope po
Okay.
naintindihan po ng ating participants yung explanation.
Sige.
Thank you so much po, Director Amy. Let us now proceed po to the lecture proper.
Talaga straight tayo, ha? Wala talaga tayong break. Sige, so time check, it's 11. Di ba tayo mag-CR break muna, health break, Kyle? Maski 5 or 10.
Do you know that procurement is crucial in achieving our society's collective vision of a strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure life in the Philippines? Hello everyone, I'm Billy Bayong. Let me show you how our Procurement Policy Board innovates, adapts, and responds to our changing needs to enhance the procurement system and help the government work for us. An efficient, transparent, and competitive procurement system connects every Filipino to vital services from the government. This can help move more people out of poverty, gain access to better education, receive quality healthcare, and enjoy economic opportunities. These yield greater trust in government institutions and bring the country closer to achieving its national development goals. The Government Procurement Policy Board focuses on simplifying various processes to produce more successful procurement that contributes to the effectiveness and efficiency of the government. The board employs strategies to identify needs and implement projects. It refines and calibrates procurement policies, adjusting to emerging trends based on needs of procuring entities. It creates ways to capacitate practitioners to better manage their procurement processes, monitor effectiveness of our procurement systems, and it adapts to the times, especially during national emergencies. The GPPB has strengthened the procurement process at the earliest stage, the planning phase. The board has issued bidding rules responsive to new laws and policies set by the government. GPPB has also streamlined the bidding process through the use of technology. GPPB has introduced guidelines to ensure timely procurement, especially during a national emergency. GPPB Technical Support Office pioneered initiatives to better assist procuring entities. Simple and competitive, transparent and accountable, monitored by the people. These make for an effective procurement system, responsive to the needs of the people. The GPPB, adapting, responding, innovating for nation building. To know more about procurement, visit gppb.gov.ph.
All right, Director Amy, can we now proceed po to the lecture proper? Hello po, ma'am. Naka-mute po kayo.
Okay. Okay, sige. So, where are we na? Nasaan na tayo?
We're in the green specifications topic po, ma'am.
Okay. Ano day? You're done na? Sige. Okay, so we are here, no? We will continue with we are still on text specs writing. This time, we can also consider, as we write the text specs, GPPB Resolution 25-2017, providing for the approving the Philippine Green Public Procurement roadmap, establishing sets of common use supplies and non-common use supplies with green specification. So if you will take a look at this listing, most of this, in fact, all are procured, except for itong mga most of these are procured by LGU. So, and since LGUs, our municipalities, cities, provinces are more in the areas where we still have somehow some of our natural resources abundant pa. So let's consider including in the text specs some of this green procurement specifications so that our environment can last. We can sustain the benefits we are getting right now from our natural resources, and that can last until the future generations. Okay? In a way, we can support government efforts towards that. So for the PR, the request for purchase request or requisition of supplies, materials, and equipment or its equivalent shall be duly approved by the proper authorities. So there's no question about that kasi talaga yung PR has to be approved first before it gets acted upon. However, ang timing or relevance of the PR should not be the trigger point. As I've said earlier, the PRs of the various end user units shall be based on the approved PPMP. That's one of the basic rule. So in other words, kung wala kayong listed na computer in your approved PPMP, then you cannot issue a PR for a computer. So that's basic, no? Now, question, kailangan namin ng computer kasi yung computer namin biglang nasira kasi nagbagyo, naulanan and all. So in which case, pwede naman. Pero mag-uumpisa tayo gumawa muna ng modified or supplemental PPMP. So that will now be the basis later if approved, assuming kasi dadaan din sa the same process, budget officer, may pera ba, magagawa din ng supplemental APP para basis ng back to procure, and then that's the time a PR will now be issued. Okay? So it doesn't mean na talagang we cannot anymore procure something not there. In the meantime, you cannot, but there will be modifications that will be accordingly done. Okay, so all PPMPs that have been assessed to be worthy of inclusion in the indicative annual procurement plan should also be anong tawag nito? Should find its way in the APP indicative and attachment to the executive budget of the LGU to be submitted to the Sanggunian. And once it will be approved at the Sanggunian, the indicative APP will now transform into a final annual procurement plan and will now be based on the APRO ordinance as passed by the concerned Sanggunian. And in the consolidation by the BACSEC, the BAC Secretariat shall consider, and the BAC shall consider the following factors. So, 1 year planning perspective, emergency or contingency fund, and they will do the schedule of activities in that 1 year horizon. So, meaning, yung mga piecemeal requirements of the various end user units may now be pooled, may now be consolidated so that the LGU will procure that one time, or that is what we call as bulk procurement. Kasi alam naman natin, the economies of scale, pag minsanan ang bili ng say 20 units computer, baka the agency, the LGU can get a better price rather than buying 10 times every time to computers to suit to the schedule of the end user unit. Hindi po tama yung ganon. Okay? So, as I've said, even the APP can also be maintained and updated as the need arises, including the PPMP. So, what could be the, ito yung magiging flow of the revision of the APP once there is an APRO ordinance passed by the Sanggunian. Okay? So, who will trigger the information as to the level of the approved budget? Of course, it's the budget officer. Kasi it's the budget officer who would already immediately know kung yung sinubmit ni mayor na budget, which ginawa ni budget officer, technically, yung paperwork, alam nila yung level, say 20 million yan. Pero paglabas ng APRO ordinance, 18 million lang yung APRO ordinance. In other words, there is 2 million reduction. So, titingnan agad ni budget officer, saan yung reduction? Ano ba yung na-reduce? Are these projects? And usually, yun ang mga affected. So, kung project siya, at malaman ni budget officer na this involve the engineering office, so accordingly, the budget officer will notify the end user unit concerned of the effect on their indicative PPMP. Na may reduction na 2M, so in which case your PPMP will now be finalized to only include up to how many projects lang. Kasi may isa pala na project na nawala, which was equivalent to 2 million. Okay? So ganun ang process. After the end user modify the PPMP, then it will go through the BOCSEC, and also the BOCSEC will trigger at the preparation of the modified APP as well. Okay? Kasi kung yung original APP there was say 5 million, ngayon magiging 3 million na lang siya kasi nabawasan sa isang end user unit ng 2 million. Okay? And whatever is the modified APP, supplemental APP, however you call it, will still also require the approval of the head of the procuring entity. So moving on to the tips in consolidating PPMPs, this can be your guide. Actually, this is more for the BOC Secretariat, no? As help nila in doing the consolidation. Kasi mayroon akong nakita na consolidated APP, kung 10 end user sila at tag 5 pages isa, lumabas yung APP nila, naging 50 pages na yung APP kasi pinagdugtong-dugtong lang, no? Kinompile lang pala into APP na daw siya. Mali yun. Hindi ganon ang ibig sabihin ng pag-consolidate. Okay? So, if there were 10 end user units and each of them prepared their PPMP, and sabihin na natin 5 pages each kasi detalyado as detail sila, when the consolidation is done, making use of these strategies, baka yung APP ninyo will be equivalent only to 10 pages, not necessarily 10 times 5, 50 pages. Okay? Kasi we can sort by type of procurement and we can consolidate to make it, yun na nga, yung bulk procurement. So instead of appearing as 10 times, there will only be one procurement for computer. Okay? And that's for all the 10 end user units that indicated a computer as one of their requirement. Okay, so yung sorting by type, so kung goods and services, infrastructure and consulting, that's what we mean by type. And ito naman yung pag-possibly merge, yung pinaghiwa-hiwalay na pwede naman pagsamahin. Kasi ano siya, all point to a particular common project. So for example, yun na nga yung sinabi ko kanina, procurement of genset. Tapos and then meron pang another doon, installation of the genset, another cost. And then could be another is delivery. Kasi mahal yan, mabigat kasi. Imagine ko lalo na kung Manila yan. Mahal na naman, another cost for the freight cost. So that could be one of the strategy to be done by the BOCSEC na ipagsama-samahin na nila. Kaya nga ang magiging project na nito will now be, instead na sabihin na natin for components, ngayon isa na lang siya. Okay? And kasi hindi yan carried sa PS. Unless PS will be requested by the LGU to be their procurement agent. Meaning, request kayo sa PS magbili for you. Just like what PS did for the other agencies. Now, as to mode of procurement, that could be another mode of strategy for consolidating, and also by source of fund. So LGU, you have your general fund, you could have also your trust fund, you could also have your, ano bang tawag nito? Your LEE funds, local economic enterprise, and maybe also another source of fund are LGSF, yung mga local government support fund. So you can do that also separately na pag-consolidate. Okay? So this just shows to us that, as I've said kanina, in the APP itself, the BAC can already schedule and indicate their timelines when they are going to do what. So, ano ba itong naibibiding nila? Kailan nila gagawin? So, hindi na, meaning, ibig sabihin, ito ang magiging Bible guide ng BAC as to their scheduling of the entire procurement for the entire LGU. Hindi na yung PR. So we should not anymore cite that the late submission of the PR as the cause of the delay. Kasi nga, hindi dapat reactive ang procurement activity ng LGU based sa PR. As PR is submitted, magbibili. As PR is submitted, bibili na naman. Parang wala na kayong katapusan sa procurement activity. Parang wala na kayong ibang nagawa, kundi meeting ng BAC. And remember, as I've said, you have other responsibility to do. No? Kasi ad hoc members nga lang kayo sa BAC. It's not your main reason for being there at the LGU. Okay? So this is an actual sample of an annual procurement plan. Okay. So medyo maliliit. Maybe you would be given copies naman siguro nito by our secretariat, by the TSO. Okay, for your reference if needed. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na pwede ba tayong maggawa ng supplemental PPMP and APP for needs na wala sa PPMP pero kailangan talaga siya bilhin kasi we know naman at times may pagka-unpredictable yung mga yung work environment natin. So even if we do procurement planning ahead, there could be instances na mayroon tayong hindi nasama na kailangan pala nating bilhin. So pwede naman, we can modify and this will be the process. Still mag-uumpisa sa concerned end user unit. The same process, baka naman ang fund source natin yan is savings. Okay, so still dadaan pa rin yan sa budget officer to ensure na mayroon tayong fund source niyan. Okay, then BAC and BAC secretariat for the consolidation and approval by the whole. So there's are some of the BACSEC find it's really easy filling up the APP kasi may mga drop-down list naman as to the mode of procurement and source of fund para madali kayong mag-navigate filling up the form. Okay? And also, yun na nga, you will do some mathematical computations there, particularly if you now consolidate common items from various PPMPs. Again, as I've said, for the APP CSE, you are required to submit that to the procurement service pursuant to DBM circulars. And you are supposed to submit that on a certain timelines. And when we say common use supplies, medyo maingay, may dumadaan na ano, dumadaan yung garbage collector dito na truck. Okay, so let's move on. Ito yung format ng APP CSE that are required to be submitted to the procurement service. May kaunting ano siya, modification sa format. Okay, so we are now into the early procurement regime na discussion. Okay, what do we mean by EPA? Hindi EPAL ha, walang L. Pero kung malapit na yung, marami kayo dyan mga poster na may mga mukha ng politiko, Lagyan mo na lang ng L, EPAL na yan. Okay, so when you say EPA, ito, as I said, this is one of the recent reform. We cannot just say that this is simply a procurement reform, but this is also one of the procurement reform that contributes a lot to the entire PFM reform, Public Financial Management Reform, okay? Because, as I said, this has an impact in fact, this is very supportive of one of the recent reform, which is the annual cash-based budgeting approach, differentiated from the previous multi-obligation based or multi-year obligation based. Okay, so meaning if we want to hasten and fast track the utilization of resources of government, then there should also be a way to fast track and hasten procurement process. And since we cannot procure traditionally before, no, prior to 2016 IRR, kasi sa 2016 IRR nag-allow mag-conduct ng early procurement activity. Prior to 2016 IRR, traditionally, agencies cannot procure without an approved budget. Kasi that was the basis for the ABC, approved budget for the contract. Okay? So talaga naman, maghihintay tayo. Naghihintay tayo na ma-approve yung budget. In the national, naghihintay tayo na may action si Congress at si Senate, di ba? And there are times na natatagalan ang approval sa Senado at sa Kongreso kasi alam naman natin din ang dynamics doon sa halls of Congress. Sa national, that's national government. Dito naman sa local, ganun din. We also wait for the approval of the budget sa sanggunian. And alam din natin na in the sanggunian, there's no prescriptive timeline provided by the law. Anong law ang nire-refer ko? That's another law, RA 7160, the local government code. There's no timeline for the sanggunian to act on the budget submitted by the governor and mayor. So pwede nilang aksyonan yan, pwede nilang hindi rin aksyonan yan. So anong nangyayari doon sa budget? Dito sa national, pwede pa. Pag hindi act ni national, deemed as approved siya by Congress. Pero sa local, hindi ganun. Walang ganun na presumption. Okay, doon sa review ang mayroong presumption na deemed reviewed in accordance with law after the prescriptive period. Pero sa budget authorization phase, there is no provision in the local government code which says na kayo nakasanggunian, panlalawigan, panlungsod, sangguniang bayan, or barangay, sanggunian barangay, has to act within a number of days. Otherwise, deemed authorized siya. Wala. So we will be, the mayor, the governor will be at the mercy of the sanggunian in that case. Maghihintay sila, wala silang mapuprocure. So unless darating na yung time na nagre-reenacted na nga yung budget, saka sila makaprocure only for recurring expenses ang pwede kasi ma-spend ng LGU pag reenacted budget ang LGU. Copy? You don't have new projects. You cannot procure for new projects. That's very sure. Pag reenacted budget ang LGU. Now, going back to EPA. So, since 2016, since at the height of the administration ni Pinoy, remember from GMA to Pinoy to Duterte, these were the times na may nai-encounter yung government natin na underspending level. From GMA to Pinoy, maraming projects ang nag-undergo ng series of review at the national level. Kasi ano yung call noon at the time ni Pinoy? Kung walang corrupt, walang mahirap. Parang ganon ang mga slogan dati, di ba? So parang lumalabas na maraming corrupt sa panahon ni GMA. Kaya tuloy ang nangyari, nung pagpasok ng administration ni Pinoy, ni-review lahat ng mga procurement contracts, DPWH lalo na. At true enough, maraming na-save from there. And so because of that, na trend na na bumagal yung disbursement level, bumagal yung mga implementation ng project kasi nga nire-review pa, chine-check pa. So, it reached to the point na the entire Pinoy administration nakita na lumiit yung spending level. Kaya nga yung DAP na create noon, na-establish yung Disbursement Acceleration Program to speed up the disbursement of the government. Maganda yung intention pero nagka-problema din tayo, di ba? So, when that underspending came, naisip na ng government natin, paano natin ma-address, matulungan yung government na mapabilis yung procurement para naman bumilis din yung disbursement. So, when Duterte came, binito ni Duterte yung continuing appropriation in the national budget. So, wala nang mga continuing appro. There should be a stop to this underspending in government. If you cannot use your budget, huwag kang humingi ng hindi mo kaya lunukin. Yun ang ibig sabihin noon. And until now, that is our budget approach. So ikaw na agency na humihingi ng budget, kaya mo ba i-implement yan? Pag sabihin mong yes, nasaan yung documents mo? Kompleto na ba yan? Pag wala kang ma-produce, hindi yan ma-approve na budget proposal mo. That is what we do now at the national level. So, in which case, nag-trigger na ng review paano natin mapapabilis ang procurement. And it came about na pwede pala tayong i-allow mag-conduct ng early procurement activity while the budget is still waiting approval. Kaysa naman nag-hibernate tayo lahat, natutulog muna lahat, pati back. Wala mo nang kasi hindi pa, pag-aanuhan pa, didibatihan pa doon. Well, nagpo-procure based on the current budget. Okay? But based on that budget that will be deliberated, naghihintay tayo. So, EPA was introduced again to ensure na while waiting for the budget to be approved, pwede nang mag-recommend ang BAC, pwede nang mag-start ang procurement process, meaning quadrant 3, but maghihinto sila, they will stop only until the recommendation of the award. Kasi wala pang basis for the approval si Hope until the budget is approved. So with that little history that I shared, you can now be sure, bakit nga ba inintroduce yung EPA? Of course, alam na natin, para early matapos yung project. Kasi nakikita nga natin, parang matagal matapos. Ilang taon muna dumadaan bago nakukomplete yung project. At matagal din makapag-umpisa kasi matagal matapos yung procurement. Kaya nga dapat mag-EPA tayo para umpisa agad after award. Okay? And makamanage tayo sa, kung madami man tayong procurement undertaking, we are able to manage it well. Kasi yung iba na mga not so important, mga konti-konti na mga requirement, pwede na yan during budget execution. Pero yung mga kailangan talaga i-prepare ng maayos, yun, dapat natin gawin early. May failure man of bidding, may delay man, hindi pa rin masyadong ma-affected kasi naghihintay pa nga tayo sa award. Hindi pa nga tayo makakapag-award. Okay? So with that, the next question na common natin naririnig, ay akala namin hindi kami kasali na pwedeng mag-EPA, sasabihin ng mga LGUs. Akala namin national lang yan. No. Included ang LGUs natin. They can also conduct early procurement activity. So among our participants now na mga LGUs, can we know? Can we check? Are you already implementing EPA or not yet? Sige nga, you encode in the chat box and we will check later. Iilan na ba ang nag-EPA sa ating mga participant LGU ngayon? Okay. So, for those na hindi pa nag-EPA, very timely itong discussion natin because by October 16, pag makasubmit yung governor-mayor ninyo ng budget to the sanggunian through the local expenditure program, pwede na kayo mag-conduct ng EPA for projects that are waiting approval by your sanggunian. Lalo na very important, lalo na at malapit ang election next year, magkakaroon ng election ban. Okay? So, bago pa mag-election ban, gawin nyo na. Mag-procure na kayo ngayon through EPA. para pagdating ng January, wala pang election ban yan. Kasi kailan ba ang umpisa ng election ban? Siguro sometime Feb or March. Pagdating ng January, assuming mapasa na yung APRO ordinance ng January, abutan man yan ng January, kung hindi mapasa ng December, may award agad. So hindi na siya makukover sa election ban. Copy? Our LGUs? Otherwise, magtatagal yan kasi you will wait until the election is done, is over. Well, kung patapos na yung, siguro kung patapos na yung term ng incumbent mayor ngayon, third termer na siya, for sure, hahabulin niya mag-EPA kasi time pa niya. Okay? Gusto niya matapos muna yan, maka-award, siya pa ang makaka-award. Pero kung first termer pa yung governor mayor ngayon at may plano pa siyang tumakbo ulit, magpa-file siya ng candidacy within the next few days or nag-file na siya, baka sasabihin niya ay baka iba ang manalo. Baka kung hindi siya sure na mananalo, baka mag-EPA din siya. So pwede pa rin pala, pwede pa rin pala siya mag-push for EPA. No? Ano yung instance na hindi na siya mag-push for EPA? Kung alam niyang matatalo siya. Or kung alam niyang mananalo siya at gusto niya, well, anyway. Okay, so bottom line, whether you are sure to win or not, importante, you are able to implement timely your programs and projects that will benefit your constituents. Do early procurement activity. Okay? And ano yung pwede natin i-EPA doon sa indicative APP? Tingnan ninyo ano yung mga nakalagay doon na for competitive bidding. So yun, those for competitive bidding are pwede maging makonduct through early procurement activity. And the alternative methods of procurement, pwede rin sila yung mga nakalagay sa indicative APP based on the LEP na for alternative modes of procurement, pwede rin masubject to EPA except the following. Ito yung hindi pwede. Ano yung mga exceptions? Iilan? Kasi di ba we have 5 alternative modes of procurement? Sa 5 alternative modality, tatlo ang hindi pwede. So, 2 yung pwede. Actually, 3 din yung pwede. May, ano yung exception? Repeat order, shopping. Sa nego procurement kasi, this is one alternative mode na maraming cases na pwedeng mag-nego procurement. There are about 14 na cases of a nego procurement. Sa 14, 11 ang pwede ma-EPA. 3 ang hindi pwede ma-conduct through EPA. And itong 3 are as shown in the blue box. Okay? Ano yung nandito sa blue box? Basahin nyo. Basahin nyo mabuti para maka-answer kayo correctly sa question later. Okay? So yan. For the scope and application, so agencies that are conducting EPA will be submitting their indicative APP based on the LEP to the DBM for national agencies. For LGU, since LGUs kayo, to your respective sanggunian. Okay? To your respective sanggunian kayo magsasubmit ng indicative annual procurement plan based on the LEP, Local Expenditure Program. And the preparation that you have to do will be yung mga dapat natin ginawa sa Quadrant 1. So kung talagang gumawa tayo ng Quadrant 1 and Quadrant 2, doon sa mga proposed projects that are also in the proposed budget that the mayor governor will submit to the sanggunian next week before October 16. Okay, kasi yun ang deadline. So, pwede na gawan ng APP and pwede nang mag-conduct ng EPA ang LGU. Okay? Sige, so I think this is the
Early procurement activity is applicable for procurement projects undertaken through NP, small value procurement. Is this statement true or false? Well, let us wait. I think the technical team is verifying the first one to answer. Again, I'm reminding all participants to register through the online training management system through the control number to be provided by our technical team. Also, for those participants who have not yet complied to our naming convention, kindly change your names into the proper format, which is your LGU name underscore your full name. So, congratulations to our winner from LGU Libacao, Miss Cheryl Zaluda. Miss Cheryl Zaluda from LGU Libacao. So, congratulations, ma'am, for being the first participant to correctly answer our question. Please check your email and or chat box as our technical team shall coordinate with you on how you may claim your special token. So the correct answer, ma'am, is false. And may I check po our Zoom chat box if majority of our participants have answered correctly. Majority po, ma'am, have answered false. Tama po ba yung sagot nila, ma'am? Or are there any
Okay.
additional explanation po?
Yeah, okay. The correct answer is really false. So tama si price ano talaga ito. Kaya nga sadya kong hindi binasa eh. Sadya kong hindi binasa ito. Yung nasa blue box. Saan na ba 'yon? Ito, yan. So small value procurement and takeover of contracts emergency cases, tatlo sa nego ang hindi pwede i-conduct through EPA. I just wanted to really check if everybody is really not just listening, as I've said, but also taking time to look at the screen as shown there at your end. Okay? So, para lahat ng senses natin are gising. Okay, so congratulations to our winner.
Yes po. May also remind our participants in order to win our special token, kindly rename using the prescribed format. That is your LGU name underscore full name po. So, thank you po, ma'am.
Okay, so we will proceed. Now, tamang-tama lang, yung next slide kasi natin will answer one of the question. I quickly browse over the chat box. So, the certificate of availability of funds, ito yung common talaga na misunderstanding or misinformation. Misinformation is the correct word. Kasi, akala ng mga LGUs, mayors, governors, even at that time 2018 I was in Cebu. I had a talk with all the mayors of Region 7 and we were already discussing the EPA and then they were saying, ma'am, problema namin kasi yung accountant namin hindi mag-issue ng CAF. And we cannot proceed daw, sabi ng BAC, pag walang CAF, walang Certificate of Availability of Funds. Is it really a requirement in the conduct of the procurement? Okay? Kasi nga wala pa namang award na mangyayari dito. There is no award yet. But when the GAA or the APRO ordinance will now be passed or approved, signed into law by the local chief executive in your case, and award will be made, the accountant now will issue the CAF before the award. Copy? Is that very clear? Anong LGU ba yung nagtanong? Okay, ano ang basis for the conduct of the EPA? Again, other than the provision in the IRR, 2016 IRR, allowing the conduct of the EPA, the basis, the document that will be prepared will be the annual procurement plan based on the LEP, Local Expenditure Program. Hindi based on the proposal, ha? Kasi baka yung initial na proposal na yung mga proposed na mga projects dumaan pa sa review at nagkaroon ng mga modification and nakalagay na this is a procurement undertaken through early procurement activity. What could be the reason? Para yung mga suppliers, bidders na sasali will know na walang award na mangyayari within the year. Even though the APRO ordinance will be passed, say, December 15, wala pa ring award na mangyayari yan kasi ang effectivity ng APRO ordinance is January 1 of the following year. So, kung sasali sila, alam nila na may possibility itong, anong tawag nito, madidelay talaga ito or even further delay kung hindi agad mapasa yung APRO ordinance. And the worst possibility is mawala ito sa APRO ordinance. Baka itong project, hindi ito ma-approve ng sanggunian kasi for whatever reason. So, I will not get an award. So meaning, very clear from the very beginning. Ano yung mga conditionalities and expectations. Okay? So I hope that's very clear. Ito, the CAF shall not be required prior to the commencement of EPA. That's under GPPB Circular 5-2018. Okay? So pakihanap nyo na lang, sir, ma'am, yung LGU na nagtanong. And for those na similarly situated, na gusto ninyo talagang mag-try mag-conduct ng EPA for 2022, gawin nyo ngayong between October and December for as long na makasubmit na si Gov and si Mayor ng budget proposal sa sanggunian. Ito ang hanapin ninyo na copy as your reference. Okay, just in case may mag-question sa action ninyo. Ayan, so these are the information that has to be included. You may even call when you conduct the pre-bid, or even prior to the pre-bid, pwede ka kayong magtawag ng mga, even before you advertise, you post, you can call for a few hours orientation to all your service providers. Ano ba itong EPA? From posting to recommendation of the BAC to the hope as to the award of the contract shall observe. Mayroon tayo pa rin i-observe na mandatory timelines prescribed in the law and the rules from the time nag-post until recommendation of the award. Okay? Including the period allowed, kung nag-rebidding tayo kasi nag-failure, pwede pa rin tayo allowed ng 15 days extension every after failure of bidding. And kung second failure na yan, baka pwede pa siya ma-extend up to 30 days extension upon approval of the head of the procuring entity. Okay, so it doesn't mean na porky EPA, wala kayong i-observe na timeline. No, mayroon pa rin. That is the meaning of this presentation in this particular slide. Now, kung yung as soon as the funding source, halimbawa na nga, the APRO ordinance has been approved na, signed na, the contract or the HOPE can now issue the NOA. Ito, approval, green box. The HOPE shall issue the NOA to the LCRB or to the HRRB consulting and thereafter sign the contract. Okay? Once there is an approved APP based on the APRO ordinance. Remember again, yung APP natin, kailangan i-final pa based on the APRO ordinance. Kasi yung whatever APP you have there are based on the LEP. Diba? Yun ang basis nga of the EPA. So once there is an APRO ordinance, magfa-finalize na tayo ng APP And that will now be the basis for the Hope to approve or disapprove. Okay? Kasi allowed naman din, even though sure yung funding, hindi naman yun ang absolute reason for the Hope to approve or disapprove the contract award. Pwede pa rin si Hope mag-exercise ng reservation clause. For what reason? For justifiable and reasonable ground as cited in Section 41, and that the award of the contract will not redound to the benefit of the government. Remember, it's the responsibility of the Hope to ensure that the government he or she represents will never be shortchanged at all times. Okay? Kasi ikaw nga yung tatay-nanay ng LGU na yan, representing the government as a buyer, you should ensure that in no way, that the LGU, the government will be shortchanged. Sana naririnig lahat ng mga governors and mayors what I am saying. Okay? Kasi alam natin ang nangyayari on the ground. Sana lahat are already following that. Okay? So when we say kasi ang approving authority kasi ng mga Hope natin, this is not a ministerial act. At times kasi yung mga Hope, yung mga head of procuring entity may invoke. Ministerial naman yung approval ko, so pikit mata ko na lang ito i-approve. Nasanay sila sa ganon. Hindi po, pertaining to procurement, wala tayong tinatawag na ministerial approval. The approval here of the recommendation of the BAC is discretionary on the part of the Hope. Meaning, pwede mong i-approve kung tama yung ginawa ng BAC, tama yung proseso, walang na-violate na any policy of the government, particularly on the procurement rules and regulations. Hindi malulugi ang gobyerno, so he or she can approve. On the contrary, he or she can disapprove. Okay? Because, again, he is duty-bound to protect the interest of government. So, let's go back. Okay, may mga examples tayo dito when instances where it could happen kasi na as proposed, in the LEP, higher siya, pero yung approval sa APRO ordinance ay nawala or bumaba. So, pwede ba i-award or not award? Ito yung mga instances. So, remember, notwithstanding the mandatory procurement timeline provided in Section 37 of the law, procurement projects undertaken through EPA may be awarded upon approval and effectivity of the APRO ordinance, as the case may be. So, example, kung yung LEP, ito ang hindi pa natin na-change for LGUs, kung yung LEP is 1 million, so nag-EPA, ABC 1 million, and then the selection process of the BAC undertaken, ang nakita nila na LCRB, talaga sagad 1 million, and in the APRO ordinance is still the same 1 million, can the Hope in this particular case award or not the NOAA? The answer is award. Kasi may pangbayad tayo na is a reduced amount from what was proposed. 1.2 yung proposed, pero yung na-approve ng sanggunian was 1 million. Can the LGU award in this case? Can the governor-mayor award? The answer is yes, pwede pa rin even if na-reduce from 1.2 to 1M kasi ang LCRB is 1M lang din naman. So enough pa rin siya to pay. Nawala lang yung ina-expect natin 200,000 na savings from the contract price vis-a-vis the proposed budget. Copy? Now next. In this case naman, ang proposed project talagang nawala in the GAA. I mean in the APRO ordinance. 1.5 million yung proposed budget. So yung ABC as basis for the EPA was also 1.5 million. And the LCRB, the lowest calculated responsive bidder was 1.3 million. Paglabas ng APRO ordinance, naglahong parang bula. Wala na. So ngayon, question, can the Hope award? Of course, hindi. Kasi wala kang pambayad. Okay? The second na scenario na hindi siya makakapag-award din is if the approved level is lower than that of the LCRB. As shown here, 1M ang proposed, 1M ang ABC, LCRB is 900, pero yung APRO ordinance is 800, so hindi rin mag-award in this case. Okay? Hindi pwede sabihin na ay mag-supplemental budget pa kami ng 100,000. So award na lang, then later na mag-award na dadagdagan na lang yan ng 100,000. No. There will be another, it will be another procurement activity that will start. Okay? So with that, again, as I've said, hindi porke approve yung budget na pipilitin ninyo yung hope ninyo to award. Kasi hindi siya pwedeng mag-disapprove. No. Mayroon pa rin pwedeng i-exercise na reservation clause yung ating mga hope. Okay. May mga cases naman na pag reenacted budget, lalo na sa mga national government agencies, hindi pwedeng mag-award until may specific release for that particular project, or it could be as specific special allotment release order. Pero sa local, pag talagang reenacted budget, hindi tayo makakapag-award, especially even though nagkaroon ng EPA, kung yung subject of the EPA are new projects. Okay? Hindi pwedeng makapag-award. So may tolling tayo ng periods. When we say tolling of periods, after the EPA, once the BAC are able to recommend award, titigil yung counting. Mag-i-stop tayo sa counting. Kasi di ba sabi natin, we will wait until the effectivity of the APRO ordinance comes in so that the go of the mayor can award. So to show an example of the tolling of periods is this diagram. So assuming kasi October yung submission ni governor ni mayor ng LEP to Sanggunian, sa national pala ito na slide. So anyway, now assuming na conduct ng EPA starting, sabihin na natin na October, kasi October 16 yung submission. So sabihin natin October 22 ito, okay, nag-bid opening na. And then, just for discussion purposes, tumakbo until November 4 na kapag back recommend na sa LCRB, meron ng LCRB ang back by November 4. So, after that, dapat after back recom, di ba, isasubmit na dapat yung back recom to the Hope for approval and NOAA. But since we will wait until the APRO ordinance is signed into law, so mag-i-stop tayo. That's what we mean by tolled period. We will stop counting from November 5 until January 1. Assuming na-approve talaga yung APRO ordinance not later than January 1. Okay? So, bilangin natin how many days ang nag-take from September 22 to November 4. That's 43 days. So if that is 43 days, mayroon tayong toll period in between. Pagdating ng January 1, effectivity ng APRO ordinance, the Hope is given 15 days to award. So indeed, in January 16, the Hope awarded. So ilang days pa mayroon dapat siya to complete the maximum 3-month period. So 3 months is equivalent to 90 days. So 90 days minus 43 days already na na-spent yung back sa pag-conduct ng EPA. So they have only how many days left para makumpleto yung procedure, yung process? 47 days. And in this case, natapos na nga. Even as January 16 na kapag NOAA na, then follow na ang NTP, then end na. Diba? Kasi yun ang maximum period natin given to the bank. Okay? So that is what we mean by tolling of periods. So last knowledge check.
Yes, ma'am. Finally, we are down to the fifth and final knowledge check question for this virtual learning session. So we are back to the use of a Zoom polling feature. Please choose the appropriate answer in the pop-up poll that shall be flashed in our screens. So the question is, in the case of a reenacted budget, the PE may also award the contract for new procurement projects undertaken through EPA. Is this statement true or false? So again, to our participants, you may use the Zoom polling feature to cast your answers.
The one with no water.
And po, Director Aimee, majority of our
It's already 12 noon, but we still have few slides left. Actually, the few slides left are more on reminders for the posting and submission of the procurement reports. Okay, just so we can quickly go through this, so we can still have time for some open forum. So reportorial requirements are here. So you can just be guided with the deadlines here. I don't think we have to go through the discussion, Kayla, no? So, and 2 slides
Yes,
lang naman pala. No? So, that ends my discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues in the local government units, I hope that somehow nakadagdag tayo ng additional na learnings on procurement as you, again, as you represent your local government units, and we expect a lot from our LGUs. I am one official of the DBM that truly believes in the genuine autonomy, local autonomy. And this is the time now that EO 138 has been issued because of the Mandanas ruling, to prove to all that LGUs can really do more with additional resources given to you. As the Spider-Man has said, great power comes great responsibility. So carry on with that. Thank you very much.
All right, that was Director Imelda Silas Teras of the Department of Budget and Management, Regional Office 8. Again, thank you very much, ma'am, for leading an in-depth discussion on procurement planning. For our first question, ma'am, ilang beses po allowed mag-update ng APP? Can the end user change their PPMP anytime? And how many times can the end user modify its PPMP in a given year?
Okay. There is a provision in the law and the rules that APP can be updated, modified twice a year or as the need arises. Yun ang medyo doon sa as the need arises. Parang napaka very wide naman nung as the need arises, no? Parang very relative as well. Na walang limit na sinasabi doon sa law and rules natin. So to me, ideally, we can allow quarterly updating of the PPMP or twice a year is very reasonable. Kasi pag i-allow ng LGU, siguro that could be an internal arrangement or agreement sa LGU. Kasi kung i-open up natin yung anytime, monthly, parang bakit pa tayo nag-planning? Kaya nga ini-emphasize natin yung procurement planning to avoid na every now and then we change heart, we change mind. So when we do procurement planning, we have to be very thorough and sure na tayo na ito na talaga, ito yun, no? Kasi hindi pwede tayo palit-palit every now and then. Kaya dapat uupuan talaga natin, maghahanap tayo ng enough time para pag-usapan yung anong dapat pag-usapan sa procurement planning. But again, because we are in a very volatile work environment, unpredictable yung mga nangyayari, lalo na with pandemic and all, kung justified naman yung reason for the updating, why not? Okay? Kumbaga, halimbawa, mag-set kayo ng quarterly, but at times when it is brought about in the exigency of the service, gano'n naman tayo palagi, ano? In the exigency of the service, a modification may be allowed on top of the regular allowed na updating. As I've said, yun lang ang provision sa rules natin. The APP may be updated once, twice in a year and as the need arises. Doon tayo medyo i-qualify yung as the need arises. So the same, ganun din yung PPMP, correct? So kung may mga changes tayo, as I emphasized kanina, kung may mga changes sa levels of the budget, dapat hindi lang APP ang magbabago, including the PPMP. In fact, in-emphasize ko na it's the budget officer that will give the information down to the end user unit, sino yung affected doon sa reduction in the budget, that will accordingly also modify their PPMP. And if triggered by a new need na wala sa original PPMP, pwede pa rin tayo mag-modify. Okay?
Okay po. For next question, paano po kung ang isang activity ay nakaschedule ng August but was postponed and moved to October? Mabaguhin pa rin po ba ang PPMP schedule?
No need na. Kasi as in the PPMP, that's your plan. Ang magka-capture na sa actual na nangyayari will be another report. Yun ang Procurement Monitoring Report. Doon na ngayon yung recording sa actual na nangyari. Kasi it could be as planned, tama ka, August dapat pero na-move to October. So, marireflect na sa PMR of the LGU na it happened in October kasi mag-submit din kayo ng report, hindi lang APP but also the PMR to the GPPB. Okay, so in other words, makukumpleto yung picture. As planned August, nangyari October. As planned bidding, pero hindi pala natuloy bidding kasi may emergency na nangyari. Nagkaroon pala ng negotiated procurement due to emergency. Okay? So yun, you don't have to revise na the PPMP in that case.
Ipo, for our third question, who are the authorized signatories for the PPMP and APP?
Okay, for the PPMP, it's the end user unit head. And for the APP, there are instances na yung mga agencies require the signature of the BAC in the APP kasi sila yung nagre-recommend ng modality of procurement. And of course, the head of the procuring entity to approve the APP. So yun ang mga authorized signatories in the annual procurement plan and in the PPMP. So pwede rin kasi yung APP naman, as I've said, pwede din siya i-delegate ni Hope to another authorized officer like the administrator. So the name of the administrator will appear in the APP in that particular case. Okay?
Thank you po, ma'am. For next question, ano pong pagkakaiba ng work and financial plan sa APP? Or sa PPMP rather?
Okay. Ang work and financial plan, this is more so the work plan, this pertains to ano yung target natin na gagawin, anong mga nakaplano na activity natin, that's a work plan. Okay? May schedule ka dyan. Financial plan naman, how much do we need for this particular activity? Whereas the PPMP list, anong kailangan bilhin? Okay? How many? How much is the budget required? So, all of these three are three different reports. Okay? They are all plans, pero they capture different aspect. They capture different area of a plan. Work plan, activity-based, financial plan, budget-based or financial-based, and PPMP, procurement-based siya. Okay? Okay. Yung code reference, I think I mentioned it kanina, yun ang AIP reference code natin. Kasi sa LGU, kaiba sa NGA, ano? Sa NGA kasi, ayun na kayong approved AIP. Doon sa approved AIP ng LGU, mayroong mga columns tayo doon ng reference code. So dapat nakakonect siya. That is what is also mean na kasi sa pag-review ng budget, lalo na namin sa DBM, kami yung nagre-review ng budget ng LGU, probinsya, highly urbanized city. Pag tingnan namin na sa budget for this particular activity, ito yung reference code ng budget item. Hahanapin namin yan doon sa AIP. Pag wala siya doon sa AIP, disapprove yan. Kasi kailangan natin i-link yung plano sa budget. In the same manner, dito din kasi ang PPMP is a supporting document sa budget. So dapat mayroon din siyang corresponding reference code based sa AIP. Okay, I hope that's clear.
Yes po, for next question, ano po ang implications sa procurement planning kung gaano karami ang supplemental budget? Ganon din po karami ang supplemental PPMP.
Okay, not necessarily kasi maybe yung supplemental budget ninyo will not be for procurement. Maybe yung supplemental budget ninyo will be for salary adjustment, will be for SRA. Hindi naman yun bibilihin. So kung magsusupplemental budget kayo kasi may project na i-implement or may bibilhin kayong new item, new goods and services, yun ang kailangan ng supplemental PPMP. So kung talagang frequent, talaga it will speak of a poor procurement planning, di ba? Kung several times kayo, even yung supplemental budget, baka magtanong din kayo, ilan beses ba allowed yung LGU maggawa ng supplemental budget? Again, wala rin yan nakalagay sa RA 7160. Wala ring limit. So makikita natin yung LGU na magaling magplano na very minimal yung frequency ng supplemental budget nila. Yung iba naman, parang something is wrong in the way they plan and prepare their budget, ang daming supplemental budget nila. So it will speak of the quality of the process talaga. I agree.
So for our next question, in relation po sa technical specifications, for example, the end user indicated in the text specs that the goods to be supplied ay G7 country standard. Wala po ba itong violation sa RA 9184?
Actually, sa reference in branding, kasama din doon yung indication na made in. Kasi parang lumalabas na rin na nag-aano ka na rin, nag-allude ka to a particular brand. Pero kung standards ang pinag-uusapan, if these are standards na pinag-uusapan, baka pwede siya to ensure na within the acceptable standards ang mabibili natin, no? This can be one of the source of the text specs. Okay, so yun.
Thank you po, ma'am. For our next question, sino po magpre-prepare na indicative annual procurement plan?
Oh, several times ko yan na-mention kanina. That's in quadrant 2. Ang quadrant 2, very clear na ang BACSEC is assigned to consolidate and prepare the indicative annual procurement plan. Okay? That's in quadrant 2. BACSEC Secretariat.
Thank you po, ma'am. For our next question, pag re-enacted po ba ang budget, pwede pa mag-apply ang EPA kapag continuing yung budget for particular proposed project?
Pag re-enacted budget, pwede ma-apply ang EPA kapag continuing yung budget for particular. So, ang EPA kasi, hindi siya i-apply, hindi tayo gumagawa ng EPA charge sa continuing appropriation sa LGU. Okay? Ang EPA, kaya nga early procurement short of award, wala pa talagang budget. It is still for deliberation. Whereas continuing APRO, na-deliberate na yan. May APRO ordinance na yon. Kaya wag natin don't mix up, no? Okay? Hindi natin dapat i-mix up kasi pag continuing appropriation, meaning budget siya this year, okay, budget siya last year, deliberated na siya, mayroon na siyang APRO ordinance, and then available pa siya, so pwede siya gamitin to procure until the following year. So pwede ka maggawa mag-procure, hindi na EPA ang gagamitin natin. Remember, nagkakaroon lang tayo ng idea na pwedeng mag-EPA, hindi pa approve yung budget. Okay? So kung approve na yung budget, current year or continuing approach siya, walang EPA. That's regular procurement activity na.
Okay po, for next question, kailan po pinakamaaga pwedeng mag-procure or procurement process this year 2021?
For this year na budget, yung pinakamaaga, last year pa. Yung EPA last year, ginawa dapat October to December last year. That is the earliest. That could be the procurement activity to be done by the BAC, charged to the 2021 budget while waiting for its approval. Okay? So kung hinintay naman natin na ma-approve talaga yung budget for those other activities, as early as January, makapag-conduct na kayo ng procurement charge sa 2021 budget. Okay? So, mukhang yung question parang ano na siya, hindi na siya applicable for us, kasi patapos na nga ang 2021. Baka 2022 ang ibig natin sabihin. So kung 2022 naman, ngayon, as soon as the LEP is submitted by your governor mayor to the Sanggunian, procure na kayo. That's the earliest that we can procure for 2022. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Sige.
Yung next question po natin, dapat po ba yung date ng CAF is before ng procurement or the date of the CAF does not affect the procurement process?
Okay, I'll repeat again. No? I think I emphasized this kanina. Yung date ng CAF will be on the date you will issue it. Ikaw na accountant. Huwag mo nang pagbago-baguhin, mag-a-adjust ka kung kailan nag-umpisa. Kasi nga, sa procurement natin na regular procurement, ang CAF is required kung hindi siya EPA. Okay? Kasi nga may budget na tayo na approve. Kung EPA naman, definitely wala ka pang CAF. Hindi date ng October of the preceding year kasi nga at that time wala ka pang basis to issue the CAF. Copy? So kung kailan available yung budget at kung kailan required na yung CAF kasi talaga required siya for award purposes. Remember for award purposes, not for EPA to start. So yan, you now have to date it on the day you issue, not later than the date of the NOAA. Okay?
Thank you po. I hope that was clear. Next question po, kapag hindi ba nakapag-submit ng APP sa October deadline,
so it follows na kung attachment siya, dapat pag-submit ng budget, kasama siya sa pag-submit sa sanggunian. Or it could also be na baka hindi pa nga final, hindi pa natapos yung APP, ihahabol. Isa-submit yung APP doon sa sanggunian before mag-umpisa yung session ng sanggunian. Kasi first and foremost, hahanapin talaga yung indicative APP ng sanggunian as they start to deliberate. Okay? So, anong sabi dito? Which is the basis of the EPA? Yes, that is the indicative APP assigned by the governor or mayor will be the basis for the EPA to start. Okay? So in other words, the EPA should not start prior to the approval of the whole sa indicative APP and not earlier than the submission of the LEP to the sanggunian. Yun ang mga deadlines na i-consider ninyo.
Thank you po, ma'am. I think that was our last question. If you have more questions, you may still ask them out by visiting slido.com. All you have to do is just to type the event code #governmentprocurementph, to which the GPPBTSO will answer through an issuance or through FAQs. At this point, we would like to thank again our resource speaker, Director Imelda C. Laceras, for graciously accepting our invitation and for extensively and enthusiastically attending to the concerns and questions raised by our participants for today's learning session. And to our participants as well for actively participating all throughout the program, thank you all very much. Now, before we proceed to the final reminders, please allow me to provide a recap or bird's eye view of our today's learning session. Today, we had an entire session on procurement planning and budget linkage. including early procurement activities, where we had a comprehensive discussion on the importance of conducting proper procurement planning as a precursor to procurement, as well as understanding why we have to plan and conduct a procurement or market study in the first place. We also had a profound discussion on the contents of the Project Procurement Management Plan and Annual Procurement Plan. Last but not the least, we also tackled upon early procurement activities and its importance. Today's sessions was led by our resource speaker, Director Laceras. Once again, we do hope that you were able to have a deep dive of our today's learning session on procurement planning and budget linkage, including early procurement activities. For the final important reminders, again, we would like to remind our participants, if you haven't done yet, please register through the online training management system. The link is to be provided by our training secretariat. In addition, please accomplish the participants' daily attendance by visiting the link provided by our events secretariat. The link will also be provided through the Zoom chat box. Rest assured that all the information you have provided through this Google form shall be treated with utmost confidentiality consistent with the provisions of the Data Privacy Act. Finally, for tomorrow's session, please be reminded that the program will start at 8 a.m. We would like to request everyone to please log in at least 10 minutes before the program. Also, please be advised that we will be using the Zoom platform, which credentials are flashed in our chat box and were likewise sent to your respective emails by our events secretariat. Finally, may we request everyone to please switch on your cameras to commemorate this learning session with our resource speaker, Director Aimee. Let us have our groupie photo. So again, I would like to scan if everyone is opening their cameras. Ayan. So for the first page on my screen, I will count to three. 1, 2, and 3. For our second page, again, 1, 2, and 3. And for page 3, smile po tayo. 1, 2, and 3. That's it. That concludes the second day of the online training for the Municipal Local Government Units on Government Procurement Reform Act, or the Republic Act number 9184 in 2016 revised, implementing rules and regulations. On behalf of the GPP BTSO, this has been your facilitator, Kyla Tiongco. Thank you very much and see you all tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Director Aimee.
Thank you, Ma'am Aimee.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you po,